The show hasn't been canceled. It's nice to come back. I still got a gig.
We're still here. I guess we were off the air for a bit on Thursday, but other than that,
really?
we're still here. We're still gainfully employed for now. We'll see how long it lasts, but we're still here.
You and I, we share a lot of similarities, and one of the things we share is from time to time, we tend to be like the American worker. There's studies that have been done. The American worker, when not given allotted time off, it's just like, hey, here's unlimited time off. They actually take fewer days.
Yes.
And part of that reason they've found in studies is they feel guilty.
Yes. Always feel guilty when you're gone.
We have found ways in this society to make us feel bad for taking a day off.
I can't do it. I can't take that day. I can't do it.
And you've shared this too, and I had this a little Wednesday. I had a staycation till Friday.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just taking some days. The
Well,
staycation makes you feel more guilty. It for sure does. When
little
you're
bit.
not going anywhere and you're like waking up and it's like, I could have gone to work today. I just am taking a day off. That's when I think the guilt sets in. Like if I go somewhere, like Swag's in Hawaii for a week. If you're in Hawaii for a week, there is zero guilt, I think, that rides with that vacation. You're on a tropical beach. You're not thinking about work. You're not looking at your phone.
Right.
Everything is out of sight, out of mind. But when you wake up on like a Tuesday morning and you're not coming into work and it's like 6:45 and you're like, oh, it show's on. Technically, I'm just sitting here. I could have been in at work. That's when it definitely hits me whenever I have those days off too.
Well, Wednesday it hit me, and then Thursday was gone.
Thursday was like,
you know,
I'm fine.
what
Screw this,
what I feel
dude.
guilty for? He's fine. He'll be all right. It's a couple days.
I wasn't even here Thursday. That's the ironic part. I was here back on Friday.
That's right. And then all the news broke.
All the news broke right on Wednesday afternoon. I'm like, great. And we knew the news was coming. I joked about this on Thursday. I was like, hey, at least I'll have something big to talk about on the show on Wednesday because the news was supposed to break on Tuesday at the Blazer Broadcasting deal. I thought this could be great. And then it didn't come out. And I'm like, awesome. Now I can't talk about it then. And then I missed the Thursday show.
Well, and then Danny is the one that started the chain of the news. And then now you're telling me he was off the air Thursday?
I believe so, yeah.
So
they did a show.
They were on every single radio.
The HD2,
that we
the
can,
YouTube,
they
the
weren't on
stream.
1080. So
Yeah.
I did the update.
They were on all of the other ones.
So I
not
did
one.
the last update for this show to
That's
go into
great.
Colin,
I mean, that's not great.
and then it sounds like boom.
Wow. All
There were
right.
lots of big engineering words from our fantastic engineer Joey that were
Yes.
used towards me, and I did this. Was it my fault? And he goes, no. And I go, then we're
Okay,
good.
then
That's
we're
a
fine.
big day for Danny, and it's just like, hey, your regular signal gone.
Sorry about that. That's our bad.
Not great.
Not great, Bob. Not great. How was camping? Did you survive
I
the
did.
wilderness?
I did. I survived. I don't know how this happened. I ended up camping twice in the state of Washington.
Not the state of Oregon.
No.
We got good campgrounds here.
We do. I can nitpick our campgrounds. What
Okay.
I'll say is our Mount Hood National Forest campground has beautiful lakes.
Yes.
Nice campgrounds, no doubt. Hosts are fantastic. The fact that they offer like zero power if you don't have a trailer or like RV, like
Isn't that the point of camping?
no, but like I like
technically?
glamping.
Sure you
Give
do.
me a cabin option, you know? Like
yes.
don't make it RV or tent.
Okay, that's fair.
They don't have any of that really in some of those lake spots, and so
Are you saying Washington blows us out in the technology of camping?
I don't know if
What were you
I'd
saying?
say blows us out.
they got more options.
technology
They do
and
got
stuff.
technology and stuff, but we went to a glamping spot. It's like one of these membership RV places where the olds drive, and they've got like 80 different campgrounds throughout America. And
Right.
so we went to one of these, and we had a delightful little, 3-person, 4-person cabin. Had a TV, had a mini fridge.
Got to have a TV and a mini fridge.
Had a microwave and a fan, a ceiling fan. It was like, oh, this is kind of right up my alley, man.
You got to cool off at nighttime, have a little
Oh.
fresh air blowing.
Well, and I'll tell you, the campground was cool. Had a good time. Ended up going to a lake. Didn't swim in the lake once. Nobody did. We didn't touch the lake.
Bad water or just didn't want to get in?
Only a boat dock, like a boat launch.
Mm.
And then the day that we went to the lake and only hung out for like 2 hours was the day that the big storm rolled over our states.
You got a little thunderstorm on Saturday.
And I'll tell you, man, I felt like the guy in the great outdoors who'd been struck by lightning six times. No, 66 times in the head. I felt like that guy because we were at the lake and also it's
a little terrifying.
big old storm rolling through, and we were underneath thinking, oh, we're all going to hang out. There was like I don't know, 16 of us.
Just watch the storm roll through. It'd be peaceful.
Yeah, and it started, I want to say, at like 6, 7 o'clock ish, somewhere in that frame, and it started pissing rain and like blowing sideways. So we were under these awnings, and it didn't matter.
No, now you're getting wet.
And now I'm like, nope, not interested.
This is stupid.
Went back to the cabin, and was in the safety of the cabin, but it was a kick-ass storm.
It was. I am very pro thunderstorm. I enjoy thunderstorms. They're fun to get. We don't get them very often, and when they roll through, it's always a delight.
That one felt a little more intense than ones we've had in the past.
In our neck of the woods back at home,
was it?
It was intense, and I was enjoying it, and I was like, "Oh, here we go!" You could see the clouds rolling in, the lightning started, and then I lost power.
Okay, I was going to ask if you lost power.
3.5 hours on Saturday night.
Ooh.
And it just was right in the middle of my, I realized how desperate and connected I am for technology when something like that happens. I don't have a lot of free time anymore. Teddy ball game takes up a lot of that.
Sure.
It hit right as it was like bedtime for him. And so you're like dealing with that. Thunderstorm rolls in. He didn't care at all. He wasn't affected. So that was good. He slept through the entire thing. We put him down to fall asleep, and then it's like, what do we do?
Play cards.
What do you want to do?
People did things back in the 1800s when their kids went to sleep.
I don't want to do things that they did in the 1800s.
Light candles, get weird.
There was preseason football on, man. I wanted to watch the preseason football. There was good games on Saturday. I wanted to watch the Steeler game. Justin Fields was sucking it up. I was trying to watch on my
Russell Wilson.
Trying to watch on my phone. It's like not connecting. It's slow. It's like gargly. It's I needed technology. So my pro thunderstorm stance has been watered down just a hair.
Really?
As long as I can keep my power. Pro thunderstorm, lose power,
Okay.
anti thunderstorm.
Yeah, our cabin. We were out in the front. We had like a front porch situation, so we were covered, but like we could look out. And we're watching it. And we're counting like how far away is things you do in the woods. It's like
lightning,
1,
and then
2. You're like, that you teach your kids. That's how many miles away that lightning strike was. And it hit, and it sounded like it hit right behind our cabin. And I would say about 10 minutes later, lights gone, power done, no fan.
It all went out?
It just all went out, and then we had like a flashlight, and we stood it up, and so we had some kind of light. My kid had the iPad on low battery mode, and it was at 80, so she was fine.
Yeah, save it. Don't hold it.
Downloaded Disney Plus episodes coming in the clutch.
That's right.
And it was The Simpsons, so it's like something we could all watch and not be annoyed with.
Yeah.
And so it was fine. The upsetting part was my wife waking me up that night, still raining, still kind of not stormy, but still rainy and stormy-ish.
Yeah, it lingered for a while.
Waking me up at 1:30. I have to pee.
What?
Okay. And we had to get up because I had to be the protector.
Oh, there's no bathroom in the cabin.
No, buddy. We had a porta potty.
Oh no.
Which was nice. They clean out the porta potty every person that stays there, and this was a really nice, clean porta potty. But it was still like. Now I'm like 1:30, half awake, flashlight. She's in the porta potty. She says she's peeing. She's in there long enough to take a dump.
Yeah.
And I'm outside like constantly just like, what was I? What was I?
It's too dark.
There's a light going back and forth. Like, am I going to get attacked by something?
Here comes a bear right now.
Oh,
That's a hell of a way to go right there.
It was
Local
terrible.
radio host dies watching his wife go to the bathroom in a porta potty when he's attacked by a grizzly bear.
So I do the porta potty thing. We go back in. I'm laying down, and now I'm like, can't sleep.
Now you're awake. At that point, you've been outside,
Yes.
fresh air, awake for that long. You're not falling back to
I
sleep.
can't fall asleep.
No.
Eventually, I fall asleep. I want to guess it's around 2:30.
Sure.
Guess who wakes up at 3:15 because he has to pee? This
Oh,
guy. And now I'm like at the point where I'm sleep deprived. I don't like the on-off switch of my sleep.
I mean, why don't you just go out the window of the cabin?
Dude.
I just pee off the balcony.
I grabbed the flashlight, I put my Crocs on, and I went out my door, and I pissed just on the side of my porch. I didn't care. At this point, I'm like, just kill me. I have to pee. I don't care anymore.
This is enough. I've had enough. I tap out.
And I could have gone to the porta potty about the same distance, but I'm like, I don't want to open and close the door.
No.
I want to. If something's gonna get me, give me a shot to defend myself here.
Some area to protect yourself. You can go
Yes.
back into the cabin if you need to.
Right.
Much safer that way.
But then I also realized these cabins, they're placed fairly close to each other, and it gets muggy and dewy if the window's not open.
Somebody saw your ween.
Well, my cousin and his entire family, their window is maybe 9 feet from where I'm taking a leak, and it ain't quiet, buddy. This is a solid stream here.
Sure.
And I heard a little rustling going on. I'm like, what is that? It's like, well, that's me. And This is all of me right now.
I wake up the next morning. Hey, Sprague, nice wean, dude. Saw it last night. Good
I don't think they
flow."
could see anything. I mean, look, it's already not the biggest unit in the world, and like also it's dark. So
Sounds like you got a healthy prostate over there, buddy. Keep
Yeah,
up the good work.
basically,
You got good
yeah.
flow going on. Way to go.
It's clear. I'm hydrated.
I think this is just reaffirming the stance: anti-camping. I mean, even glamping. If you're gonna lose power glamping,
Yeah.
at least you have a bed to sleep on. But you're proving a lot of my points right now.
Well, the family that I went to is technically my step family that I grew up with, but I've known them since I'm like 2, right?
Right.
So they're my family. We've camped now twice, and I want to say in a gap of 5 or 6 years, we've gone camping together twice at a lake in August in the woods. Both times now, we have had severe thunder lightning storms where we couldn't do anything. The first time, and it was 3.5 hours away, we left after one night. We're like, nah, it's
No.
raining. I'm not camping.
I'm not doing this.
And this time, the first day was great, and then the second day was that thunderstorm. But it was at the back end of the day, and we're like,
Yeah, it didn't hit till late in the day
No.
Saturday. So at least you got like a
We had a nice
full
day.
Saturday before it finally hit.
but we're like, let's just do the beach, and let's stop doing things in
When
August.
we go to Central Oregon, you go to the coast, walk around, even though it was a little stormy.
That's
at the
where
coast
our
this
last
weekend.
camping trip was, where it was
Yeah.
stormy. It was a Central
Central
Oregon.
Oregon
It was by
one.
Bend.
That's true. Yeah, you got to be careful this time of year. Fires and thunderstorms can hit
Yeah.
randomly and throw you off. But it is like whenever you're thankful that you have the cabin to sleep in. But
Very thankful.
I just, man, not my cup of tea.
I know.
Not my cup of tea.
If you don't have a boat at a lake too, and there's not good
The boat's
beach
a total
access,
game changer.
it's-
You can go out on the
yeah.
boat, spend a day out doing that.
Yeah.
Gives you another activity. But activity-wise, you just kind of there's not much to do out there.
Right,
You're just
right.
kind of, what are we going to make a campfire? All right.
Well, it's good to be back.
Good to have you back.
There is a lot of sports to talk about. It's football season. Also,
It is.
still baseball season.
Still baseball season.
So we will get to a lot of dealings. I'm working on the ticker. I got a 2-stop ticker today.
Okay.
I got it half booked.
Half book.
May have it fully booked. I got a text I haven't read
Ooh,
yet.
what do we got?
So we'll roll on with the dirty poll. And that's NC State and Florida State today.
Yes.
We'll continue on our top 25 preseason dirty poll. We've got a lot of NFL, some college football to dive into. We'll debut the breakfast menu, which we'll talk about at 7 a.m. And I know at the back end probably of the show, you have something to say about something that happened to you over the weekend that is very unfortunate.
Yeah, it was a tough weekend.
It was a tough weekend for the Johnson clan. And so we'll get to that at the end of the show. Thank you for being with us. We're ready to rock and roll. Let's get it started. Ortner in for swag today. We'll start rookie quarterback week 2. What the hell is this team doing? And, oh, this is so clear. That's next. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan. You stop.
Brought to you by
0 people. 0 people.
Hey, there's people in Dublin. They're fired up for college football this weekend.
I am. I'm fired up. I looked at the gambling lines all weekend.
This is ridiculous. Don't
go.
you stop. We're
Let's
going to get
go.
to this at 7.
Big Will bets. What do we
I'm
got?
so excited.
Come on,
Dude, I've been
baby.
looking at Delaware
Come on,
State
baby.
unders.
All
Let's go,
day.
baby.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know the unders in NFL games in preseason are at 77%.
77%.
That feels low.
Yeah, it does feel low.
Did you know my
actually.
Friday parlay of the day did not win because the Houston Astros lost to the Chicago White Sox?
That was their only loss of the series, too,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah, it was.
Why don't you
Bob.
stop doing parlays like an idiot?
Because I'm an idiot.
Ken Barkley's last hit is this week.
Thursday, I know. We talked about that to open the
So
show
sad.
on Wednesday.
Oh,
Such a bummer.
I was devastated.
Absolutely devastated.
Rookie quarterbacks make their second starts, except Michael Penix,
Nope,
who
seen
the
enough.
Falcons just don't need to see anything else with. He's probably not going to play in their regular season unless Kirkers gets hurt.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing in Atlanta?
Made absolutely no sense. I thought this was one of the dumbest moves that I've seen from a coaching staff in a while in the NFL. Can anybody make an argument for it?
Who will be the starting quarterback for Chicago?
Caleb Williams will be.
Who started for Chicago again?
Caleb Williams.
Who looked great in that game?
Caleb Williams.
Oh, hey, who's going to start in Washington?
Jaden Daniels.
Who started this week?
Jaden Daniels.
Is he going to look good? He's
Yes.
looked good so far. Hey,
Yes.
who's going to be the starter in Denver?
Bo Nix.
We all know it. Did he play this
He
weekend?
did. He looked really good.
What are we doing in
I-
Atlanta? I don't know what to do with Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix should be playing.
Especially in a season where, to your point, he is not going to get as many reps as if things go according to plan. Like, they brought in Kirk Cousins to try and win now in a short window. That's not going to be their long-term answer, but they want him to play this year. And so if he stays healthy and does not get hurt, Penix is not going to see the field unless there's a blowout.
No.
And so you just wait. You have 3 opportunities in the preseason. That's all you got now. 3 games. He looked really good in his first game. Give him some reps in his next 2 games. Put stuff on film. Have him learn valuable lessons. Give him a little more of the offense to handle. Try and do everything you can to get him ready because nobody knows how long Cousins is going to last. Might be 1 year, might be 2, might be 3. He's coming off an Achilles. He's at the end of his career. Nobody knows how long this is going to last. Any opportunity you get to play your guy and get him reps, I saw that and just laughed out loud this week. That's one of the dumbest things I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I agree, especially considering they drafted a quarterback
In the
who's
top
slightly
10.
older in the top 10
The top
after
10.
signing a guy to a guaranteed
Yes.
$100 million deal.
Let's not play him. Let's just sit him on the bench. He's ready. That one go route that he threw in his first preseason. We have seen enough. We've seen the light.
We've seen the light with Michael Penix.
It's so stupid.
Good luck to you. Okay.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Caleb, electrifying, great plays, all the reason for people to be hyped. Like, Chicago watched that game, had to have watched that game and said, oh my God, quarterbacks can do this? We have a quarterback who could do this?
I did chuckle a little bit at the Caleb stuff this weekend.
Why?
I did just.
Oh,
just
I know
I
you're
just
fully
a little
ready to
bit.
hate Caleb Williams.
I'm all in
yeah,
on
I
hating
know.
Caleb Williams.
I'm well aware.
He because I watched a good chunk of this game. It was before my power went out on Saturday,
Mhm.
and it was earlier in the day, and so I watched a good chunk of the game. He was average at best in the first half. Didn't do a lot.
His yards per average
like
wasn't
he
great.
didn't have that
Yeah.
good of a game. He had one highlight, a couple of them.
He had a nice run and a good
a
rollout
nice
throw.
touchdown run, and then the one that he threw off platform, rolling to his left
To Rome,
to
yeah.
Rome Odunze down the sideline, was an insane throw. And those are the kind of plays that have you salivating over Caleb Williams. But the thing that I chuckled about was when you look at the performance as a whole, it felt like a very Justin Fields performance, where overall it wasn't that good and there wasn't a lot to take away from it. But there were a couple of plays that you said, wow, how did he do that? Because he definitely had a few of those in the back half of that first half, because I think he played the entire first half of that game. And that's kind of what Justin Fields was. Like, there wasn't a lot. Boom, he'd go on a long run. You're like, dude, you see that? Justin Fields 90-yard touchdown run. That was incredible. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is Justin Fields. I just chuckled at the notion of social media freaking out because I watched his entire performance.
Well, we're a house of highlights society
We
now.
absolutely are, and that's all that we react to.
And that's all we react to.
He is Patrick Mahomes after that throw.
I mean, throw behind the back pass and might have a twin there.
He was 6 of 13 for 75 yards.
I've also seen Justin Fields in preseason, and you stop it. Like, he may not be.
You didn't see that throw he had on
Stop
Saturday
it.
night where he
Justin
escaped
Fields,
the pocket, found a way,
he
extend the
is
play, threw one down the sideline.
garbage.
You bite your tongue.
Pittsburgh might have, and I know the Raiders announced Gardner Minshew.
Yes,
who's
Gardner Minshew.
going to be subbed out after throwing 2 pick sixes in like week 4.
They lost to the Dallas Cowboys this weekend, despite the Raiders playing all their starters and the Cowboys playing nobody. They lost 27 to 12.
I'm fully ready for the Raiders to be an absolute disaster this year.
They're not good.
Despite the fact they have Wilkins and Crosby on the D-line. I wonder if Pittsburgh thinks they have the worst quarterback spot right now. Fields has looked atrocious, and Russell Wilson made his debut, and he looked like hot, steamy garbage.
I mean, it's Russell. You look like Russell Wilson.
He's broken, dude.
He's done.
I mean,
He
like,
is
I
done.
knew he was done, but I
He's
thought
done.
maybe Peyton broke him last year.
Arthur Smith's going to fix him. That'll do it. The guy who couldn't get the ball to Kyle Pitts or Bijan Robinson, that's going to solve your issues.
Wow, what a fall from grace for Russell Wilson.
There's
man.
2 of them, and this is why, like, whenever Cleveland gets brought up in a conversation, I do the same thing. Like, are we really pretending that Deshaun Watson's going to remember how to play? You can be that bad for 2.5, 3 years.
Boy, they better.
And you're back to being a Pro Bowler and an MVP candidate. It's just not going to, like, these guys suck now. What happened? I don't know. Both of them are very different scenarios, but they are done. Stick a fork in them.
Let's get to one team. Jaden had a good performance for Washington, though his coach was nervous on one of the runs because he took a kind of a weird hit as he kind of slid. It was a weird play.
Yeah, go down. Protect yourself, buddy. It's preseason.
But Jaden, I think Jaden's a sneaky good pick for like offensive rookie of the year because I think Washington's not the worst team in that division, and I think he'll put up like Lamar Jackson kind of numbers. Like he'll have a lot of rushing yards, some rushing touchdowns, some good passing numbers. But last night, all the eyes in the Pacific Northwest were on the NFL Network. Bo Nix making his preseason start for the Denver Broncos. He debuted in their first one. He started for Denver yesterday against Green Bay.
First home game.
Had a nice little game for himself.
He did.
Thought he had a tutty early. I was watching this doing my gambling show, and then I hadn't seen that he had crossed the line of scrimmage
Dude,
by
I
2 yards.
yelled at my TV when that happened, and then they didn't. I didn't have the volume up. I was like, "Why is that counting?" He was clearly past the line of scrimmage.
He had Packers in the
when
points,
you watch
didn't
it, you're
you?
like, and
Yeah.
I did not have Packers in the points. I just was like, "Why are we allowing this?" And then they reviewed it and they took it off the board.
Well, he ended up having a nice start for himself, and everybody in Denver has come to the same conclusion that everybody here has been saying for weeks. Like, Stidham sucks.
Yes.
Threw a pick last night in relief of Nix. And Sean Payton's still playing this game.
Well, listen, he's played well. I'm not announcing any starting quarterback tonight, or I'll let you guys know when the time comes. But I thought he played well. You know, the one penalty, which was, man, right on the line, you know, it was tough. It was good. It was a pretty heads-up play. He did a good job at the line of scrimmage with some checks. You know, you feel his comfort level as he continues to get used to the calls coming in, and you know, you kind of feel the poise when he's playing, and the other two the same way. You know, look, I said this last week. I like the room, so their job is to lead their offense down the field and score points, and you know, they all had touchdown drives, but I thought he was sharp. Obviously, I think he was 8 for 9, and you know, he does a good job of distributing the football, understanding the zones, man-to-man, and what coverage concepts we're getting. But overall, I was pleased.
What a liar.
Not going to name a starter.
Come on, dude. We all know that it's going to be Bo Nix. What are we doing here?
This feels like one of those old school coaching tactics, and I feel like he's done this the entire preseason. Like, it started naming Nick's third on the depth chart and then not starting him in the first preseason game, and then he plays good in that game, gets to start in the second preseason game. We're still not going to label him the starter. It's like one of those old school coaching tactics of like, I don't want his head to get too big.
He was 8 of 9 for 80 yards, an 8.9 yard average, which was one of the only like slight negatives I would say from the first week, with a tutty, no picks, a 140.7 rating.
I would like to point out that was a bigger average than any of the other rookie quarterbacks this weekend.
No, yeah, I know.
So
I
just-
looked.
yeah.
I went and looked through it. It
Just
was
point
the
the-
biggest one.
Check down Charlie.
That's why I mentioned it.
Check down Charlie.
Well, he had a couple check downs, but it doesn't matter because he did have some really nice throws down the field
He
in
did.
pivotal third down, second and longs. Like, he looked every bit the part as the starting quarterback. Now, I'm not going Colin Cowherd and proclaiming that he is the best quarterback of this crop because we've seen him for a start and some relief, but
Yeah.
that's certainly something, Andy, that's going on here of a A lot of people now starting to bet on the Bo Nix Offensive Rookie of the Year options.
Well, I saw the Cowherd clip. I understand to a certain extent what he's saying. I'm not in full agreement either, but his main argument is that all these other guys have defensive head coaches, and he has an offensive head coach who I think many would argue he fits well in that system, and so he should hopefully be able to thrive. And that's kind of the take since he was drafted by Denver. You thought, that's a good fit. I could see that, right? Very similar to Drew Brees, get the ball out quick. It's what we've talked about since going all the way back to April. I want to say now that he has had 7 drives in the preseason, and I think he's scored on all 7 drives.
Yesterday was interesting. He's had a lot of success, yes. Yesterday was interesting because it felt like he was getting the ball back with like great field position.
Well, because the Packers played nobody.
Yeah, the Packers did not care about this game.
Did not care about that game
and
at
that's
all.
the other part where it's like, I'm watching this, I'm doing a gambling show, and in real time I'm like, yo, Bo's going to be the starter. Bank on it. Like, start looking at Bo Nix props. Start thinking about Bo Nix things. What are the Broncos, their win-loss, their over-unders, all that stuff. And I'm also like, Green Bay's playing, not a soul.
Nobody.
And so it's like sometimes it's not an anti-Bo Nix thing, though I am on record saying I don't think he's a franchise guy. He's looked great, but I also we do this with so many players of like, hey, look how good Zach Wilson's also having a great preseason according to some. And I'm like, I know what Zach Wilson is. I don't need to talk myself into anything. And so that's my only hesitancy is Green Bay played nobody.
Well, it's also like you shouldn't watch 2 preseason performances and have it draw some big conclusion that he is going to be C.J. Stroud this year, right? Like,
Right. I think
there's
important.
a difference between
Yes.
saying like he looks competent, he clearly understands the offense, he's identifying his reads, where he's been in, like the efficiency that he has played with through 2 games is exactly what you saw at Oregon.
Yes.
Will that continue with the regular season? No, because he's going to go against starting defenses all year, and you got to go on the road, and there's all this stuff. Like, no, he's not going to play at that level. But I think he has shown you everything that you at least would want to see. An understanding of the offense, an understanding of what defenses are doing, using his legs, scrambling around and making plays, pushing it at times down the field when he needs to, understanding his checkdowns. Like, he's checked all of the boxes that he needed to win the starting job. Starting Jared Stidham makes no sense. And stop with the Zach Wilson's having a good camp thing.
We know he's starting.
We know who's starting here. And so Denver dragging this out is kind of funny. I'm not drawing any big conclusion about what it's going to mean for this year. All it means is he's looked really good through 2 preseason games, and that's why he's going to be the starting quarterback of the Broncos.
Whether you're a Bronco fan or you're a Duck fan rooting for him, I think all you can ask for so far is what you've seen. And that's like, hey, this
Looks
guy's
good.
playing good.
Looks good.
He's playing good.
Now you go to Seattle in week 1.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Redemption against the city.
Is it Seattle or L.A.?
I thought they were in Seattle.
They're in
the first.
Seattle.
Is it
Bo
Seattle?
Nix revenge game
Bo
against the
Nix.
entire state of
That's right.
Washington.
This one counts. This one counts.
Hey, I'll tell you
Can't
this.
say he never won a rivalry game.
That's right.
I know they're going to do some cheesy TV package on this, but like a real, like, cool little 3-part podcast idea for anybody in Denver. I want to know, what was it going from Auburn to Oregon if he ends up becoming a franchise? What was it? What
What happened?
Something changed. Like, this dude was very middle of the road,
Yeah.
not a quarterback you wanted.
You know what he's going to say? He got married.
I mean,
That's what changed it.
Could be.
that's usually against the dirt stance.
Hey, that's in golf, not with quarterbacks.
Oh, not with
That's just an
That's only
individual-
Ricky Fowler.
It's only Ricky Fowler,
only one-
Roy McIlroy, maybe not. We'll see. Time will
I thought
tell
they
on that.
divorced.
Okay.
No, they're back
No,
together.
they're back together.
They're back
That's why he
together.
lost.
Yeah.
Back together now.
That's why
Yeah,
it came up
I would
short.
love to sit like that.
Something happened, man. Like, I
Quarterbacks
don't know what it
make
is.
They don't make any sense to begin with in evaluating. Like, there's a quarterback in college in the news that we'll get to today who can't win a job at a Mountain West school, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the country coming out of high school.
5-star guy.
Like, it's funny how some guys pan
Yeah.
out and some don't, but there's probably a million different reasons why it happened. But I did see a Jokey Duck tweet this weekend where he was labeled, when he transferred from Auburn to Oregon, he was labeled as a 3-star in the transfer portal recruiting class. And so they signed a 3-star quarterback, and it was a joke. Look, Oregon turning 3 stars into first-round picks, man. We're developing guys out in Eugene.
I didn't know they start him on the portal.
You get a star
so
on the portal.
5-star quarterback
In
who
high
then
school,
became a 3-star.
Became a 3-star when he
Wow.
transferred, and then back to a first-round pick.
Let's be fair, too. That's pretty accurate at the moment.
It was.
They
I
don't
was
have-
against it.
yeah,
I was
everybody thought
pissed
that.
when he was named the starter. I wanted Ty Thompson. I'm an idiot.
So a nice little start to the NFL preseason action for old Bo Nix in Denver, who will absolutely be the starting quarterback for the Broncos. Coming up next, choose your quarterback. And it's not the options you think. That's next.
Now,
Ducks and beeves and ducks, oh my.
Do you have a starting quarterback? You do. You don't. You do. You don't.
Do you have a healthy right tackle? You do. You don't.
Hey,
you do. You don't.
Hey, right guard.
Cornerback? How's that going?
It's all right. We brought in a lot of transfers. We'll be okay.
Bring in a lot
That's why you have depth. You can overcome those things.
We'll get to the local dealings coming up. Breakfast menu. I may reveal for the first time in years my fantasy football team name.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're back in fantasy football this year.
I'm doing Dynasty League.
Look at you in your dynasty mode.
There are things I didn't know existed in fantasy football because I've been away for so long, and now I'm like Googling and watching, and I'm listening, and I'm like, damn it.
Is this why I feel like you mentioning fantasy football to me 3 times, my phone has learned it, and now in my algorithms, I'm getting fantasy football things. And I'm like, I don't want fantasy football things in my get them out of here. I don't need draft strategy tweets. Please, for the love of God.
I'm learning that, like, defense has changed. It's not just pick a team and that's your defense. There's, like, individual players and, like, their tackle metrics are different and scoring's different.
What's the buy-in for this league?
There is none.
Oh, okay. I'll give you 6.5 weeks.
What do you mean?
Until you stop caring.
The team name may motivate me to go all the way through.
You got that good of a team name.
I'll let you rate it right now.
Okay.
Spit on that name.
Oh. A Seahawk Tua would have been a good name because there's a lot of people in Washington in this league.
Yes, there are.
So a Seahawk Tua would have been a great
I thought
name.
you got Tua, so that's why you named it Hawk
No,
Tua,
we haven't had a draft yet.
Did you see the shirt that Anthony Edwards was wearing the other day?
No, I didn't.
He had a "If they don't hawk Tua, I don't talk Tua" t-shirt on.
You know, she threw out the first pitch at the Mets game when I was gone.
She gave a press conference at the Mets game.
She did.
Why did she not hawk Tua on the ball?
Spitball, no spitball.
Well, those are illegal.
Yeah,
you
but,
can't
like,
do that. That's banned by the
that's her
MLB.
Entire thing.
Do you see
No.
Mets fans just melt down over this too? By the way,
Mets fans did.
Mets fans
Yeah, it's a big thing.
lost their ass.
I didn't see it. I just thought that she was.
The
out
Yankees
there.
have Juan Soto, and we got Grimace and Hawk Tua. Just yelling. New York radio lost their minds.
I bet they did.
They did.
Cue the trumpets.
Yes. Ba, ba, da, ba, ba.
Ha ha. Bill Clinton dicks.
It's pretty good.
I liked it. I thought about it in my camp, and I was like, I'm naming that name.
That's pretty solid.
Ha ha. Bill Clinton dicks.
So there wasn't any sort of Googling effort that went into this fantasy team name?
No. I look, I'm not
Okay.
saying that name has never existed. So I don't want to be called a thief here. I don't do that.
We haven't TM'd it. There's no TM here.
I like to think of funny names, and I don't know why, but Clinton Dix' name popped in my head, and I just went, what if I just put a Bill in between this? Middle name Bill? Ha, Bill Clinton Dix.
His was pretty famous.
And then I had Monica Lewinsky as a profile pick, and then I went, I don't know these guys in this league, so I didn't want to go too far. So I put a college photo of his back. It says
What
Clinton
should our
Dix.
options be to rate your team name?
I
Should we go grade? Should we go 1 through 10? Love it, hate it?
do a grade.
Grade? Okay.
Yeah, and
I'll say
skip the D.
grade.
Just A, B, C, or F.
A, B, C, or F. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send that one out right now.
The reaction I just got on this show tells me this is more in the C category, but I was pretty proud of myself on Saturday
I mean, it's pretty solid.
coming up with it.
It's pretty. I'll give you.
It's the best one in the league so far.
I'll give you a B plus.
My cousin did Battleground Bandits, and I'm like, yeah, you're so
Boo.
What are we?
Boo.
And then he went to Chat GPT for his team photo. Like, boo, you
Boo.
nerd.
Boo. Boo. Battleground. Boo your cousin.
Yeah,
Boo.
there you go.
Boo.
Who would you rather have at quarterback? Jalen Hurts
Mm.
or Daryl Doucette?
Ooh, tough call.
Daryl Doucette. Have you seen this story? I don't know if
I
you guys
have
have. I read the New York Times, and Daryl
seen the story.
Doucette is the U.S. flag football quarterback. And the NFL tweeted out when the Olympics ended, like, hey, in 2028, we're coming. It was like all these NFL guys, including Jalen Hurts. Joe Burrow has chimed in and said, oh, man, it'd be kind of cool to play flag football in the Olympics. Tyreek Hill said, let's make it the dream team. And Daryl Doucette is the quarterback. He said, quote, I think it's disrespectful that they just automatically assume that they're able to just join the Olympic team because of the person that they are. They didn't help grow this game to get to the Olympics. Give the guys who helped this game to get where it's at their respect.
Isn't the only reason it's in the Olympics because there was like a big push from some NFL players and the NFL to make this happen? Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I thought that was a big part of it.
Said we just don't think they're going to be able to walk on the field and make the Olympic team because of the name, right? They still have to go out there and compete.
No, they don't. No, they don't. I do feel bad for this guy because I didn't know we had a Team USA flag football team.
I'd learned this, over the weekend.
I had no clue, but
Yeah.
I saw the headline and I chuckled. So, like, imagine you have been, like, going through all of these steps and then you get the American team maybe into the Olympics and they're like, hey, dude, we can get Patrick Mahomes. Sorry, you're no longer going and we're not going to play you in the Olympics.
I mean,
I understand his argument here. Like, he's trying to protect this is his thing. He's
Yeah.
he's the flag football guy. But it's just the idea that they're not just going to come out here and take our spots. Like, if Patrick Mahomes wants to play on Team USA flag football,
I think you have to.
he's
right?
gonna. If Tyreek Hill if Justin Jefferson want to play Team USA flag football, they got a spot on the team.
Well, but like I'm looking at a photo of him. He looks tiny.
He's 5'7".
He's 5'7"?
Yeah, I looked into the story this week.
He looks really small, and I'm
He's
just
a
like,
fellow short king. He's 5'7".
is there a shot that maybe he's more built for flag football and that
No.
our NFL players
No.
aren't?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, flag football is 7-on-7 essentially. If you're a quarterback, you can't.
Well, I'm just
the
wondering.
defenders have
like,
to be able to grab a flag.
He's
It's not
making
touch.
it seem like it's a
No.
different sport entirely, and I'm like, I don't think that's a thing. But like, he's in it. I'm not.
We're gonna pretend like Patrick Mahomes can win 3 Super Bowls, but he can't understand and comprehend the nuance of flag football.
Well, so is
He's not
Patrick
gonna-
Mahomes chasing anybody to get a flag? I think Daryl Doucette is.
If he throws a pick, that guy might chase it down. Mahomes probably won't do that.
Mahomes is probably conditioned
That's
to just, like
fine.
not compete in that.
Lamar can be our backup. We just went through this in the Olympics with our 3-on-3 basketball, which nobody watched or cared about because we don't play the guys. Like, this is the whole point of the Olympics. If you want people to care, baseball.
Beasley should have been in the 3-on-3.
That's fine. He was a 3-on-3 Olympic, but we also should have NBA players. Like, take the guys who didn't make the Olympic team, let them play 3-on-3 for a month in Paris. That would have been awesome. And I probably would have watched a little bit of it. Baseball used to be in the Olympics, and we didn't play Major League Baseball players. We played college players.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Well, I don't remember when it was.
Exactly.
What Olympics?
Sums it all up. It's been gone for a while because
Okay,
nobody
all right.
cared about it anymore. If we don't have the stars playing flag football, nobody's going to watch flag football in the Olympics.
Second poll question, follow up my fantasy football team name. Which quarterback would you rather have representing USA in flag football, Daryl Doucette or Patrick Mahomes?
It's a tough call.
have
Tough
to think
call.
on that one a little
Tough decision to make.
Coming up next, I want to pivot. I want to give this sport its due because pretty wild and crazy. Next on The Fan.
It's the Vancouver Ford text line.
Your fantasy team name? The people on Twitter are not being kind to you so far.
Well, you can grade the fantasy team name. It is Bill Clinton Dix, and I will stand by that. You all have bad senses of humor. That's you problem.
It's on you, not on me.
I got an awful, and I've already got, look at this, Lockie Lockerson out of retirement.
Ken
has
Barkley, yes.
decided to respond.
He's no longer on social media, and he is so offended by your fantasy football team name that he decided to log on and comment on it this morning.
He said, this might be the worst fantasy name I've ever heard, and that's with 1 billion people going Hawk Tua this year.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am.
You know what I like? Money. You know what I don't like? Jokes.
Yeah, that's your fault, Ken.
That's on you, Ken.
It's not on us.
It's on you.
I'll put the poll question for quarterbacks up in a minute. We'll get to the breakfast menu coming up at 7 a.m. Jeff Passan had a great tweet. I'm still following. My Bravos have sucked, but not sucked enough to where it's still like they're in a race.
Hey, you're still in the mix, still in the wild card.
Oh, well, I mean, anytime you get to play the Giants,
It
just
helps out
turns
tremendously.
everything around for you.
Right when I labeled the Giants back, they decided to lose 3 out of 4 and then barely split with the A's. But we get the White Sox this week, so maybe that'll work.
Jeff Passan tweeted this. This is shaping up to be the weirdest baseball season in a decade. With 6 weeks left, here are the dozen best records in baseball. Phillies, Dodgers, O's, Yanks, Guards, Brewers, Twins, Pods, Royals, D-backs, Astros, Bravos. And the best run differential, Yankees, Royals, Brewers, Phillies, Dodgers, O's, Guardians, Stros, D-backs, Pods, Twins, Braves. The best team in Major League Baseball is on pace for 95. The last year without a 100-win team was 2014.
That's pretty wild.
Similarly, the last time the top run differential in baseball was less than plus 231 was 2014. Barely half that at the moment. All of which is to say, a year after a 90-win wildcard team faced an 86-win wildcard team in the World Series, the 2024 championship looks as up for grabs as it's been in a long time.
And I will argue, just like I did last year, much to the angerment of you,
yes,
that this is awesome for baseball. Like, this is fun. And it sucks when you're the team that's the juggernaut, the powerhouse all
the
year.
anger of me?
Well, you were upset that your Braves lost early in the playoffs last year because they won all those games in the regular season and they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
I was devastated. I'm a sports fan.
It sucks. You want to see your team win, but this is ultimately awesome for baseball. Now, does it drag down your World Series ratings? Yes. Rangers and Diamondbacks did not draw a lot of folks in, and it wasn't a very good series on top of it. But having this many different teams in play who could legitimately argue, like, hey, you get in, man, something weird could happen. I could see him get there. The Diamondbacks were an afterthought all season last year, and they found their way to the World Series. Mm-hmm. They went through juggernauts in the National League to get there on their way. And the same thing with the Rangers. Nobody mentioned them much all year. They found their way in. This year feels very similar. You could tell me that you think the Yankees are the best team in baseball. That's okay. They probably, or the Dodgers or the Phillies. The Phillies have been not playing great for about 6 weeks now.
They've stumbled a little bit here, yeah.
The Dodger pitching staff we've been over 1 million times is not trustworthy, and guys keep getting banged up.
Yep.
The Yankees are in a dogfight for their division, so they might have to go the wild card route just to get there. If the O's win, I think they're currently tied atop the AL East, so you might have to go the wild card route.
Also, do you trust the Yanks? Aaron Boone's got a weird thing about him.
We trust Garrett Cole in the playoffs. We trust Boone. I'm with you on that. So it does seem genuinely wide open. And that's why, look, my team sucks. They're not in this. Will's team is sinking like a stone right now to the bottom of the ocean.
I didn't know they were 5 out and like 5.5 of the wild card and 4 back in the division.
Got swept by the Tigers. Lost 2 out of 3 to Pittsburgh. Not good, Bob.
Not worth watching. Just turn it off.
Change
We're
the
on
channel.
to 2025.
It's football season now, baby.
That's right.
But you can at least make the argument if you get in, something funky could happen.
Sure.
And this baseball has always been one of those sports, and this year feels like another example of it.
Yeah, what's the worst possible outcome here for the sport?
For a World Series matchup?
Yeah. Is it like Brewers? Would it be like Brewers?
I will give you Brewers in the National League versus, is Kansas City in a wild card spot?
I think they're the last
AL wild card team. Yeah. Give me Brewers versus Kansas City.
Well, Twins Brewers. What's worse, Twins Brewers or Royals Brewers?
Do the Twins have to play the Yankees on their way to the World Series? Because that's at least an entertaining storyline if they literally can't beat them.
They can't win a game.
And if they beat the Yankees, I think that generates headlines and attention. But other than that, yeah, that would not be good.
Well, I know we don't talk a lot of baseball on the program. And I know there's baseball people out there that probably get bummed that sports radio in general, outside of a few cities, doesn't talk a whole lot baseball. But it's been a good year.
It's been a really fun
I think
year.
this is great. I eventually we've got to get to baseball the way that we do with basketball. And I don't care about ratings anymore. If you're a sports fan and you like baseball, you don't love it, you're going to watch. It's going to be on. Mm-hmm. And the World Series was that for me last year. I didn't have a whole lot of interest, but it was crazy that a 90 win and an 86 win team were competing for the title.
Yeah.
Bochy back with the Rangers. You had the D-backs get hot and get in. You're
First
like,
time in 20 years they've been there.
this doesn't
basically.
make any sense, but
No.
okay, like maybe that's what this year will give us. Or it could get us Yankees-Dodgers, which would just be the best possible outcome, I think, for the sport.
From a rating standpoint,
Shohei and Judge,
you
my
cannot
God,
beat that.
man.
You cannot be. Or Phillies would be great. Atlanta's a big-time market. I'm still pulling for Baltimore. I think seeing them win would be awesome. Or
I'm
at least
with you
get to the
there.
dance. Definitely
Yeah.
pulling for Minnesota. Pulling for Cleveland. I love a lot of guys on that team, and Stephen Vogt's awesome as a manager. So there's some really good stories in the sport this year. I think last week sums up why it's a hard sport, though, to talk about on a day-to-day basis. And I joked about this on the show Friday. We literally did the show Monday. Favorite things from the weekend. And Mariner fan were writing, they were on Sunday Night Baseball for the first time. They scored, 27 runs in that game.
Swept the Mets.
Swept the Mets. Here we go. We're back, baby. To Friday, when I'm reading social media posts from Softy and Furness and all these people in Seattle where it's like, I'm done. I'm not watching anymore. It's just like,
Sell the team.
that was Monday to Friday. That was 1 week. That was a 5-day difference, and we're just officially out of it.
A lot to get to in the second hour of the program. We'll debut the breakfast menu. I'll explain what that is, and we'll talk some local college football. It is week 0, hour number 2, Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
Dusty here for Victorico's Mexican Food to
Your morning roasters, your coffee boys.
Hello.
How you doing? How's your Monday?
Happy Monday.
Bright and early, 7 a.m. Look at us, right on time, here to bring you what we hope is an okay show. At the minimum, it's like okay.
Passable.
Passable. We hope, though, it's great.
Yeah.
And where you fall into that meter, I don't know. You just turn the microphone on and hope for the best.
You strive for greatness every day.
2 poll questions are up right now at Dirt and Sprague if you're just tuning in on this beautiful Monday morning. The first one is, I revealed my fantasy football team name. I'm back. My cousin got me into fantasy football. I'm doing Dynasty League.
I don't know how this happened, man. And I'm still giving the over-under 6.5 weeks until you stop caring. And then also considering the dynasties are like,
It's long. It's longevity.
long.
It's
You're
like,
looking into the future.
Yeah, do I take Penix because I think he's going to be a stud, or do I go Lamar Burrow? Like, well, I don't know what to do here.
I would take the known commodity, but that's
Sure.
just me. You're your own general manager.
You are, and now I have like defensive things. Anyways, I revealed my team name this week, and I was bored camping, and my team name's Bill Clinton Dix.
Yes.
And it's getting trashed. It's absolutely getting annihilated on Twitter right now.
It's not going good for you.
It's not going good,
No.
and so you can vote what grade that is. Also, up on Twitter, I just put it up. Which quarterback would you rather have representing the U.S. flag football team in the 2028 Olympics, Darryl Doucette or Patrick Mahomes?
Shout out to the Short Kings out there, but there's an easy answer here.
I tend to agree with that, yeah. And the voting results so far are showing there's a big difference between those two people.
I think if you're not online, your response, well, you wouldn't see this in the first place, so dumb comment, but you don't know who the hell this guy is. Nobody's ever heard of this name before, unless he's in the news talking about I should be the starting quarterback.
We will go to NC State for the ticker today. They are, what number are we on?
14?
14 on the old dirty poll here.
Yeah, Florida State and NC State were supposed to be today, 14-13, but everybody at Florida State's traveling to Dublin right now.
Yeah, this could be a little
So,
problematic for a Florida State preview this week.
Might
so.
have to go do an old Skippo of Florida State. We just got to move on to the next one. You know?
They are interesting. DJ's the quarterback.
And they're playing this weekend in Week 0. It's the only good game this Saturday.
I want to debut the breakfast menu. I've been noodling on this for a few months. This is no big, like, crazy new thing we're doing. The breakfast menu, it's 7 a.m. We know how this has gone, doing the morning show now for a few years. 7 a.m. a little different than 6 a.m.
It picks up a little bit.
Audience-wise, we understand that 6 is pretty early for a lot of people. 7 more in the swing of things. And so the breakfast menu is basically what we have to offer you the rest of the way. Hey, you ever open a menu? What's the special?
What do we got? My wife has a funny thing where with menus of anywhere, whenever we look at a place, it's like, hey, we should go try that. My wife will then go online and pull up their menu on her phone and read me the entire menu.
Oh, she reads it to you?
I
look at menus. I don't read them to people.
Like if we're on a walk or something, we walk by a restaurant, like, hey, that place looks good. And I think next thing she'll do, pull out the phone. And at first I
like no matter the food, like if you go to a Thai restaurant, she's just going to read you what you know that they
so
serve.
they have pad see ew with chicken. They have pad thai with this.
Pad see ew with beef.
And it's gotten to the point where
veggie pad see ew.
Early in the relationship, I used to kind of roll my eyes like, you're still going? And now I just laugh out loud. Every time she does it, I just start laughing. I'm like, you're still, okay, we're still going. The appetizers, we got salads now, okay? We're going to give the extras. I want those.
Okay.
Give me everything on that menu. I'm going to know it front and back.
Coming up on the old 7 a.m. menu, we've got duck talk.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
We've got injury concerns.
Quack, quack.
Scrimmage. Dan Lanning not getting any longer in his post-scrimmage
No, very
answers.
short. Very short this weekend.
But we'll address some of the injury things that have popped up. A little injury concern in Corvallis. Also, who is the quarterback?
We named one yesterday, and then we unnamed one yesterday.
I don't know. Did we?
The team didn't do anything. The team had nothing to do. Media named a starting quarterback, and then media unnamed a starting quarterback.
Because I watched Trent Bray's post-scrimmage thoughts, and he, much like Dan Lanning, saying almost nothing.
We have a source-off going on right now.
We have a source-off.
My sources are saying.
We've got one guy, not a Beaver beat writer, but basically only covers Oregon State.
Yes.
And we've got a Beaver beat writer, and so we've got a source-off. And so this week we're supposed to actually find out who the real starting quarterback is of Oregon State.
Makes sense. You're kicking off in less than 2 weeks now.
Well, just normal or a little rut row. We can talk about that. We'll get to that on the old breakfast menu. We will go to NC State because they're next up on the old dirty poll. The Wolfpack, maybe howling this year in the ACC.
Ooh.
Good plus money value on picking the ACC champion, by the way, because they're going to make the playoffs. So if you want a playoff pick and you're looking to make money, the ACC and Big 12 teams all are plus money value.
Not a terrible idea.
And then we will kind of get to what we like to call the breakfast smorgasbord coming up probably around crunch time of what's going on in college football. There's a lot.
I love a good smorgasbord.
I do too.
Like, just pick whatever you
A
want.
breakfast charcuterie board should exist. There should be a little cut up French toast area.
Couple of slices of bacon.
Some bacon, some sausage
links.
The links. Not the patties, the links.
I want the little not the big pancakes. You ever eat those little pancakes?
minis.
You get the little mini pancakes.
Love those.
They're delightful.
They are.
Little butter in the pan. Put those in there. It takes like 3 minutes and they're ready.
They're like mini candy bars. You can just eat a million mini pancakes. And then you're like, I think I ate the equivalent of 7 real pancakes.
Sure, it kind of ends up breaking even.
Little fruit in the corner.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Breakfast charcuterie board. Why have I never done this?
This is a great idea. I'd give you even a couple of bagels on the side. You just want to kind of grab and go. Maybe you don't have a lot of time.
Cream cheese in the middle for a
cream
spread.
Cheese, boop. Put some cream cheese on there. Now we're talking.
I didn't eat, and I'm really hungry now.
Can you tell?
Yeah, right. I want to get to this. I read this yesterday, and I actually I chuckled out loud. I don't
chuckle.
People say that in radio, but I actually did chuckle out loud.
We had an out loud giggle.
Stuart Mandel of The Athletic is writing all his prediction preview things for conference champions, all that. And he did the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And so writing through the Big Ten, he gives record predictions of all the teams, and then he writes little blurbs of like the top 6, right? Like Washington, he doesn't have being very good this year, but he wrote a blurb of like what their situation is and what they're doing, right?
Might end up playing a freshman quarterback. Maybe it ends up being a good year.
So he wrote this on Ohio State, who he is picking to win the B1G.
Okay.
Quote, and this is the first sentence of his Ohio State blurb. The Buckeyes are loaded, and there's not a close second in the conference.
Whoa.
End quote.
Whoa.
Not a close second.
I'm giving a giggle to that, too.
Dirt, I also am picking Ohio State, but like, I'm not going out there, and I know we're in the take business and saying not a close second in the conference.
You know what is so interesting about them? So I wanted to get to Ohio State on Friday because they were in the news on Thursday, not to the surprise of anybody, but they officially named Will Howard their starting quarterback. That happened on Thursday. There was the fear is not the right word. There was the brief talking point in fall camp of if Aaron Nolan, I think is their big, which is just an all-time name, was going to potentially win the job as a true freshman. Highly touted kid. I think he was previously committed to Alabama, left with the Saban retirement, ended up going to Ohio State. It was a big flip for them. But they named Will Howard the starting quarterback. And I look at that, and that's the only thing that I circle about that team, which is ironically the same thing that you would circle about that team last year. Ohio State was loaded last year. We knew that. They had maybe the best wide receiver in college football. They were loaded at running back. Their offensive line was stout.
We just questioned the quarterback.
Their defense was great.
Yeah.
All of those things still exist.
A lot of those guys still there.
What did they not have to get over the hump in the biggest game when they needed it? They had Kyle McCord at quarterback, and everybody called him Honda McCord, and they booted him into the transfer portal at the start of the offseason. They have gone from Kyle McCord, who, by the way, had better numbers across the board than Will Howard last year. Now, the argument would be he was at Kansas State, and Kyle McCord got to throw to Marvin Harrison Jr., and that helps, and your numbers are going to look better there. But I find this fascinating because I think Will Howard is a tremendous runner. I don't think he's a tremendous thrower of the football. And maybe that is enough for them to overcome because everything else around him is good enough. But I don't look at Ohio State and say quarterback is a strength of theirs, and that might end up being their downfall again this year, ironically, for a program who has just rolled out star quarterback after star quarterback after star quarterback and finally had one hit in the NFL with C.J. Stroud. This is, I think, a weakness for them for the second straight year. And I don't look at Will Howard in any sort of fearful light of, oh, my God, we got to face that guy. How do we defend Will Howard? I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm not saying he's bad. It's all the other stuff. And maybe the rest of the roster is good enough to get over it, but we made the same argument last year of everything else is loaded. Can Kyle McCord do it? And the answer was no.
Here was Urban Meyer. He's on Colin last week, and he was asked about the addition of Chip Kelly. And we're all very familiar with Chip Kelly here for obvious reasons. Well, Chip Kelly's bounced around a few places, and he chose to stop coaching a Big Ten team so he could go be an offensive coordinator of a Big Ten team. Here was Urban Meyer's read on the Chip Kelly impact and what his offense is.
I've known Chip forever. We're very close. We spent a lot of time together growing in the spread offense. And his philosophy back in the day at Oregon as a head coach and as a coordinator was go as fast as you can. That evolved when he went to the NFL, and it's really evolved when he went to UCLA. He is now the perfect play guy. He's a guy that's going to huddle, take their time, and get the perfect play on. That is drastically different than what he was as a head coach at Oregon. I'm anxious to see it. I've watched some UCLA film. They are very physical. They do believe in running the ball. They believe in getting the quarterback involved. And Will Howard is, I met him when I was in Columbus. What a great looking guy he is. And I understand he's really fast and athletic, and on videotape he looks that way. But this Chip Kelly offense is completely different than the so-called radical offense that he ran when he was the head coach at Oregon. This is completely different. And I do believe it's going to help Ohio State. I think that fits this scheme.
And I think that's the kind of the wild card, because I think you're right on Will Howard. Like, nobody's going, oh, my God, Will Howard. I thought he was really good at Kansas State for Kansas State.
He was fine. 24 touchdowns and 10 picks. He was
right.
That was the only year he popped. He was fine. Dylan Gabriel had more rushing yards than he did last year.
He did. I don't know, and I would think Oregon's going to use the Gabriel legs, but we also, Bo Nix, that kind of went away a little bit after his first season, so we'll see what that is. But I'm more curious, like, what this means for their offense and how it's going to evolve with what Chip is doing, because you may not fear Will Howard. You should fear their wide receiver and the running back and the offensive line and the defensive pass rush.
Yeah,
Like, that team is loaded at every spot except that position. And I think in the past in college football, we have examples throughout the years of teams who you don't necessarily fear the quarterback, but the team is just so loaded.
Yep.
That the quarterback has a play.
Nick Saban won titles with that.
I mean, I think of Stetson Bennett here, and I know Bennett had some moments for sure, but, like, I didn't look at that Georgia team and go, well, Stetson Bennett's leading it. That was the least of my concern.
Right.
It was all the other stuff with that Georgia squad, and, like, that might be what Ohio State is this year. They certainly have an argument to be made that they're built that way.
They absolutely do. I will go back to, though, you're going to have games where you don't play your best. You're going to have a tougher schedule this year than you have had in years past, adding a trip to Oregon in your conference play, having to play Michigan, where I know they get the game at home at the end of the year, but that's a big monkey they got to get off their back. And it's 2 minutes to go, and you need to drive from Will Howard. Do you trust him to get the job done?
Are they at Penn State this year? I can't remember if last year's, because I remember that game. I just couldn't remember the location in my head. But
pull it up.
Penn State, Michigan, you mentioned at Oregon.
They're at
Eugene.
Penn State, so they have to go to Oregon, to Penn State.
So that's a whiteout
and
game,
then you get
right?
Michigan. Yeah, I mean, that'll be a prime. They haven't announced the time for the Oregon game or the Penn State game, but those are two of the toughest places to play in the conference. And so I give you Will Howard in Autzen Stadium, down by 4 with 90 seconds to go. Do you trust him to get a drive done? I give you Will Howard on the road in State College.
I don't know yet. I haven't seen it.
Well, see, and
I saw it at Kansas State, but I haven't seen it in this offense with these weapons.
Maybe Chip Kelly is the ultimate game changer for them. Maybe he is. Where his offense comes in, he was not a good head coach. We can all understand that, but I don't think anybody really questions his offensive mind. Ironically, for UCLA, what led them to any wins last year was their defense. The offense had nothing to do with it because it was atrocious last season. But he's going to have far more tools in his tool chest in order to get the job done this year in Columbus. I don't disagree with the notion that if you take quarterback out of the equation, that Ohio State is the most talented team in the Big Ten. There's nobody, I think, that would disagree with that. I don't believe that it's a wide gap. I don't believe that there's a Grand Canyon between Ohio State and everybody else.
Not a close second is a hell of a thing to say.
It's laughable. Michigan has body bagged them for 3 years in a row now, and you could use the cheating allegations all you want. Everybody knew they were cheating last year, and they did the damn thing again. And so I've seen Michigan do it. I think Oregon is right there with them talent-wise, and this idea that you can just pluck the quarterback out and have this conversation, it's the most important position on the field, and at some point you're going to need that guy to have a drive. Last year in Ann Arbor, late in that game, Kyle McCord had the ball with a chance to win. How did it go? He couldn't get the job done. They kicked him to the transfer portal, and so I look at them with a bit of a question mark because of the quarterback position at Will Howard.
But so the thing about that is Will Howard wasn't, or Kyle McCord wasn't good by anyone's estimation most of the year. We all talked about that.
And his numbers were better than Will Howard's across the board.
But what's funny is it still came down to the last game of the year in a must-have drive.
Yeah.
And he couldn't make it. And I'm just like...
He was 18 of 30 for 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks in that game.
So with bad quarterback play, they were still that close. And it's like, if you think, even though the numbers may not say it, if you think they got better at quarterback, if you think Will Howard is better... all of that other stuff minus Marvin Harrison Jr. is back.
It is.
And that's maybe why somebody like Mandel would write not a close second in the conference, even though we have yet to see it.
And I would counter that with, and this year you have to go on the road to Oregon and on the road to Penn State, 2 things that you did not have to do last year. And so your non-conference schedule isn't as challenging because you played literally nobody in non-conference this year. Last year you had to go to Notre Dame where they would have lost that game if Notre Dame played with 11 people, which you're allowed to do in football, but they decided to play with 10. Good call, Marcus Freeman.
Back-to-back.
Now back-to-back plays. And now you got to go on the road twice in conference. I think the schedule is challenging, and Will Howard is a massive question mark.
I would also worry about greatness of the mind of Chip Kelly. Like when he came in and he brought in the blur offense, nobody was doing that. Back then, you still recruited thumpers to play middle linebacker. So you're asking a middle linebacker that's playing at 240, 250, sometimes 260 to try and run up and down the field with his offense. Well, the problem is that linebacker doesn't exist in the league anymore. Linebackers are smaller now, right? And so teams have adjusted to recruit a player that can run up and down with the blur offense because everyone runs it. And so now you have to have different tempos. So sometimes you go blur, sometimes you huddle. And I think you've seen a regression in Chip Kelly's offense since teams have kind of caught up to the blur offense. So for me, I would also worry about, like, how good is Chip Kelly at calling plays? Is he just resting on his laurels? You said it best, Dirt. Last year, they won not because of their offense, because of their defense. Yeah. I can't remember the last time I looked at a Chip Kelly offense in the NFL or in college football, and I went, wow, man, they're just really moving the ball, and they're beating teams that they shouldn't because of his play calling and also his style of coaching.
Well, 2 years ago with DTR, though, I think
their offense
statistically
was good.
Their offense was pretty good, and the Pac-12 wasn't what it was
but
last
to Will's
year.
point, they weren't necessarily winning the games. Like they lost to Oregon, they lost to USC. When they
Well,
played
they couldn't win the games.
They
that
couldn't win
mattered,
a bigger
you know what I
game
mean? Like,
because of their offense.
Yeah, and then they once in a while stubbed their toe against the Oregon States of the world, but they were stuck in that purgatory of good, not great.
Yeah.
And I think part of that's Chip's recruiting. I mean, that mattered a great deal.
Yes.
And that's what I wonder is, like, I don't know where Will Howard will be, but having a guy who basically chose to not be a head coach anymore, to just coordinate offense with those weapons, I mean, DeBoer's new at Bama, right? Kirby didn't win the championship. Sark got to a playoff. There are all these Brian Kelly at my family LSU.
Family.
There's all of the Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. There's all of these coaches you can point and circle and say, "Oh man, what is this going to be? Oh man, what does it mean if you don't do this?" And it's crazy to say, I don't think they're going to fire Ryan Day, but it doesn't feel like there's as much. There's more pressure, it feels like, on Ryan Day and Ohio State to, at like minimum, get to the championship game of this thing, because of the amount of talent and getting Chip Kelly now as an OC, even more so than some of the new guys at the new places or the guys that are just starting to break through. Like, are you going to keep breaking through or struggle a little bit? So it's interesting to follow Ohio State.
Well, and I'll say this last thing on it, too. On the pressure note, I do think there's something to that with teams, and can you overcome it? Like, I know in our little bubble in the Northwest, we look at Lanning in year 3 and say, what are you going to do? How far are you going to make it? Is there pressure to win a big hit? There's no real pressure on Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning will be the head coach of Oregon for as long as he wants to be the head coach at Oregon. There's legitimate pressure on Ohio State. If you don't win this year, it seems laughable, but if you lose to Michigan, you drop a game to Oregon, you go 9-3, 10-2, you don't go on a run in the playoffs, like, that fan base is freaking out internally. Their biggest rival just won a national championship. They've lost 3 years in a row to that team. This is a title or bust year for Ohio State.
They spent a lot of money on that roster.
And that is not an easy thing to like. That's a hard expectation to put on a team right out of the gate.
Cause for concern? We'll get to that next on The Fan.
The Herd with
Pack Sports will join us. Cause for concern, second scrimmage is happening in Corvallis and Eugene.
Yes.
And there's some injury concerns with the old Duckies. It sounds like offensive lineman, cornerback banged up.
Yes.
Probably missing the first week. The landing very vague in what he talks about with some of these injury things.
You will get no details. Will they play this year? Yes. When will they play? Find out.
Jaleel Florence is sounds like the guy for sure that they're going to slowly ramp up. They're keeping him very limited. And your offensive lineman, I've named
Matthew Bedford.
Matthew Bedford, thank you.
The transfer.
Also sounds like he's not going to be available for their very hard, tough, tested game against Idaho.
I mean, the Jaleel Florence one is, I would love to have him healthy for the entire season. I think Oregon has upgraded their secondary tremendously in the offseason, and so there's a lot of bodies back there that I trust, and it sounds like he will play at some point. The Bedford one is the one that you circle. That's the one that Oregon has a lot of talent returning on the offensive line, despite losing JPJ in the middle to the NFL. But a lot of their key guys are back, including their cornerstone tackles. But I still think that's the unit that I question the most about this football team. Of just how do they gel? New center, new starters at certain positions. That to me is a big question mark for how it gels early in the season and how their offense goes, because you need that to be a strength for you, especially late in the season, especially when we're talking about Ohio State and how loaded they are. That front is ridiculously talented, man. And if you're banged up on the offensive line or you lose another guy and Bedford still isn't back, now you got a guy you don't really trust playing left guard. That becomes a massive concern. So it sounds like he'll play at some point. Nobody has any clue what the actual injury is. It's just he's banged up and we're bringing him along slowly. He's going to play at some point this year. That one is one that you circle and say, let's hope there's no other injuries on the offensive line.
I ended up watching both Hard Knocks and the Team Out West episode 2s. And I don't know if you talked at all about that Team Out West part 2, but they did a thing on the trainer.
Wilson Love.
He's a very interesting dude. He's like almost every other trainer of like, hey, the energy's always amazing with this guy. I'm like, man, these guys must snort C4.
Trainers are psychotic. They have to be.
You have to be. And like to be that way all day, every single day.
You're
taking a crazy amount of caffeine.
You're a physical therapist. You're a strength coach. You're a
mental
health coach. You're everything.
Well, but you mentioned the depth of defensive line, no doubt. I thought it was interesting. My only takeaway from that episode, aside from like, hey, just look how revealing this is for a program that's so buttoned up and has been since Chip was there. The scene where they do this like truth-telling exercise where they sit in the auditorium and there's 3 people at different spots, and Love is one of the people.
Hard truths, I think, or something.
And he basically tells Jordan Birch, you're amazing, but you need to basically play that way. And that I thought that was cool, and I was almost like, oh wow, they released this part because that's a dude that came in with high expectation, and people thought, oh my god, and
he had an okay year last year,
not quite the year we thought he would have, and like he's going into a pretty pivotal, I think, moment of his career of like, hey man, you have a monster year, it could mean big things for you.
You could be a first-round draft pick if you have a monster year,
and having the trainer just outright be like, I think you can be better. I think you could bring it more. Like, those were things I thought was really revealing. You talk about the depth of defensive line. You also mentioned something about Lanning that I thought was interesting in the last segment.
Mm-hmm.
I would never argue that Lanning's in trouble or going into the season on the hot seat. No way.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't make a playoff, I don't know about, like, everything's A-okay and going swimmingly. That team hasn't...
Sure.
You've made the argument yourself that, like, they're probably the most loaded they've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
They're deep at a ton of spots. They've got a quarterback with as much experience as the last guy.
Yeah.
And probably more because he'll pass him. And so it's like if they don't make the playoff, they stub their toe twice and lose Ohio State. I don't know about that. I'm not saying he's in trouble of losing his job.
Sure.
But, man, it's going to amp
Where is
up.
it louder, in Columbus or Eugene, if both of them miss the playoff?
Well,
it's not even close.
Definitely Columbus.
That was the only argument I was making. I think that's a different level of pressure. That is serious. I could lose.
But I think it starts to ramp up in Eugene if they.
I'm not
fall short of that.
disagreeing with that at all.
Yeah.
But if they don't make the playoff or they don't win a national championship this year at Ohio State or they lose to Michigan again, I think I think we're so in our little bubble of talking about this day in and day out that we're overestimating how loud the noise would act. Fans would obviously be disgruntled. I would be upset. Many people would be upset if Oregon didn't make the college football playoff. I think the expectations at Ohio State are at a totally different level, though.
But barring like massive injuries at multiple sides, I mean, we are absolutely floored if Ohio State doesn't make the playoff.
Yes.
Losing a game, losing at Eugene would not shock me, but not making the playoff?
There's a difference where, let's say they both make the playoff, Oregon wins a game, then they lose a heartbreaker in the second round of the playoffs. If Ohio State does the same thing, there is noise in Columbus, Ohio. If that is their season, they make the playoff, they win their first game, but then they can't even get to the semifinals, there is noise there. And I don't think that exists in Eugene, Oregon. I think that brings a different level of pressure, not only for your coach, but inside your locker room day in and day out. Of this, we have to do this or else. And I don't think that necessarily exists in Eugene.
Mandel had Penn State down further than I thought he would. Now they have new coordinator stuff that they're turning over, but I think he had them like 6-3 in conference play. And I'm just like, the 12-team playoffs good in the way of like more interest, more intrigue, more fan bases having more juice to it, right? What's funny about it is the year you miss a 12-team playoff, like you could rattle off how many coaches of, is that guy in trouble? Is he going to get fired? How hot is that seat, right? Like DeBoer, Sarkisian, Franklin.
I mean, Cristobal's there, Day,
Cristobal, that's like
Dabo,
Lanning. Like, there's so many names that you can throw into this, like, did we make the playoff? No? What the living hell? Or you lose a game. Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
We didn't win a game. Like,
we paid for that transfer portal class. Where's it going?
We want the expanded playoff, and it's funny because it's kind of almost adding even more stress, anxiety, and anger to fan bases if they don't achieve X and Y.
You have to. Everybody has big expectations. I look around the country this year, and I don't know if any program in the nation has more pressure on them than Ohio State.
I don't think I disagree with you.
So I'm not saying that an Oregon fan won't freak out if they don't. If the Oregon goes 9-3, heads will be spinning. Absolutely.
Sure.
But I think there's a different level of expectation.
9-3 at Ohio State.
You better win this year or else, and that exists very strongly in Columbus, Ohio.
Beavers don't have a quarterback yet. Or do they? Is this a rut row, or is this everything's okay, this is normal process vetting? We'll talk about that. We got a smorgasbord to get to eventually. And coming up next is the Daily Ticker, NC State. Next on the old Dirty Poll, top 25 preseason countdown. James Henderson covers them for Inside the Pack Sports. We'll get to him coming up next for the Ticker, but first Will with the Sports Update.
can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Pelican Brewing presents the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague visit with the insiders that are covering the stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague is poured by Pelican Brewing. Be ready for your next afternoon vacation with Beak Breaker Tropical. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.
All right, ticker time here on a Monday, brought to you as always by Pelican Brewing. Visit pelicanbrewing.com for more details on locations, events, award-winning beers independently brewed since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach. Florida State was number 14, but all their beat writers are traveling to Dublin right now. So we're doing a little skip over Florida State. We're just fast forwarding from 14 down to 13, and we're sticking in the same conference, and the number 13 team in the preseason Dirty Poll is NC State. The Wolfpack have big expectations this year. I probably have them maybe a little bit higher than some other folks around the country. Joining us now, James Henderson, Pack Pride publisher at Inside Pack Sports on Twitter. Go give him a follow. James, good morning to you, man. I look at this team and what they added in the transfer portal, and I feel like they're getting slept on a little bit in the offseason going into the year. What has Grayson McCall look like, and what kind of impact are we expecting from him as a transfer at quarterback?
Well, I'd like to say congratulations. 13. That's a high number for them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an aggressive pick. I like it because I do think they're getting slept on a little bit because of the transfer portal additions they made. Grayson McCall, 3-time conference player of the year. I mean, you're not getting many guys like that out of a transfer portal, and very seasoned. And NC State's just been blown away by him. That just the general vibe I've been getting out of camp has been he's been unbelievable. And it's funny because, last year State brought in a transfer portal quarterback in Brennan Armstrong from Virginia. And while State was high on him, there wasn't the amount of positive buzz you have like you do right now with Grayson McCall. And I think State feels like he's set up to have a huge year.
Well, I want to ask you about Dave Dorn, their coach, but I do want to ask you very quickly because you're reminding us of a topic that we talked about last week, and that's like when the quarterback that was either with the team originally or they transfer in, like which school picks or identifies them as their quarterback. So like Grayson McCall has a good year at NC State. Is he suddenly an NC State guy forever? And then also, like, is Russell Wilson an NC State quarterback or a Wisconsin quarterback?
Ooh.
Okay, so I love this topic. I think with Russell, to me, it's a no-brainer with Russell. He's an NC State quarterback because he has his degree from NC State. Like if you're an alum, he was at NC State for 4 seasons. I think he might have been at Wisconsin 4 months. So I would say NC State if you're looking at it from afar. But obviously each player is going to recognize with themselves because the unique deal is when you go into your last year, you're generally recognized on the next level by where you last were at. So
right.
I get it. But for Russell, to me, it's NC State because that's where he has his degree from. Grayson, personally, like I would consider him as of right now, kind of in a similar deal, a Coastal Carolina quarterback. I mean, all he accomplished there, 3-time conference player of the year, graduated from there, similar to Russell. Like I think Coastal Carolina right now, and I think Grayson McCall, but that might change once I see him in some NC State games.
Yeah, James, I was going to say, once they win the ACC, I think Grayson
McCall. He beats
McCall,
Tennessee in week 2. He's a Wolf. He's an NC State quarterback.
Legend, just the way
there you go. Right.
Bo Nix is a Duck quarterback, not an Auburn quarterback, and now he's off to the NFL. I want to ask you about the coach, Dave Dorn. I think he is one of the more underrated coaches probably in the sport. Reminds me kind of Kyle Whittingham in the sense of really stinking good, but doesn't get his flowers because NC State's maybe not the traditional powerhouse that the national media covers. 9-4, 8-5, 9-3, 8-4, 9-4. I mean, this dude, he's got one down year in 2019 when they were 4-8. Other than that, this dude is consistently really good. The ACC feels open to us, which is why I think my co-host has them ranked higher than Florida State. Miami's coming in with some talent. I don't know what Dabo and Clemson are going to be. How does Dave Dorn get over the hump? These are really good years. How does NC State get over this hump where they don't lose that one game where they stub their toe?
Well, I think the big positive for NC State, I feel like going into this season, is their schedule. If you go and look at the top 7 or 8 teams in the league, I feel like there's a cutoff around 7. You've got the top 4 you've been mentioning, Clemson, Florida State, NC State, Miami. Then behind them, you've got Louisville, Virginia Tech, maybe SMU in any sort of order. And then there's kind of a gap, I think. But if you look at the schedule for NC State, they only play one of those top 7 teams, and that's Clemson. And they get them first month of the season on the road. And while I think that's going to be a tough game, it could be. If NC State wins that game with the rest of their schedule, I just don't see how they're not getting over the hump. And even if they don't win it, they're going to be favored right now in their final 7 ACC games when you look at their schedule. And so, I mean, I think if you're NC State, you say if you could post a 7-1 and just see what happens, I feel like that could get you over the hump. I really do.
Yeah, you look at that schedule. You mentioned it. You got Northern Illinois after Clemson, and then you close Wake Forest, Syracuse, Cal, Stanford, Duke, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina.
And we know Cal and Stanford are easy
We're
dubs.
very familiar with those programs out here on the West Coast. What are you looking for? I mean, you lose an all-world defender last year to the NFL, guy who's winning awards and had like 140 total tackles. How do you go about replacing that, and what do they look like on that side of the ball this year?
Yeah, Peyton Wilson, Ben Narek Award winner, best defensive player last year in college football. I think you don't replace him, right? I mean, you don't replace a guy like that. I mean, he'd been a big piece of NC State's team, but I think they're replacing him with their defensive coordinator. You know, if you look at a lot of the list in terms of top defensive coordinators in the country, Tony Gibson is going to be up there. You know, last year NC State had to replace 4 all-conference players on their defensive side, and they went into conference play and they allowed 6 less points per game than the previous season. They just have a system in place. He's been there for 4 years now. They kind of plug and play and really do it from a group effort standpoint. I think that's the way they're approaching it defensively. Yeah, you're not going to replace Peyton Wilson, but can your D-line be better? Can your secondary be better? Can other guys step up? I think that's how they view it. And just defensively, they feel like that side of the ball is kind of plug and play right now. They're just going to be really good either way.
James, do people howl with NC State? Like, what's NC State's thing?
Yeah, I guess you could label it a howl. I don't really want to try and duplicate it, whatever it is they're doing. They're doing something. But no, you get the little whoopee sign with the hand. I think a lot of folks or a lot of teams have some sort of hand gesture you get with, but not. I mean, there's some you get the howling from, but mainly it's kind of the wolf hand.
Now, I understand not wanting to be on a radio station in Portland and be the guy who howls on a radio show, but like, also, is there a place of insecurity there where you've howled before and you're not proud of your howl?
We're not confident in our howl.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a little under the weather right now. I'm worried my voice might crack. It won't be good. It won't be too good. So I'm not even going to try to duplicate it.
I love it, man. NC State. I'm high on them this year. James mentioned the schedule, manageable in the back half. A lot of additions in the transfer portal. James Henderson at Inside Pack Sports on Twitter. Pack Pride publisher there down at NC State. Thanks for the time out here in Portland, man. Great preview. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the season.
And James, if they get to the ACC title game, we got to bring you back on. We got to howl together. Okay? Let's howl together if they do that.
Hey, guys, look, it's been since 1979 for NC State. Your listeners may not know that. It's been that long.
Wow.
I'll come on and howl for you.
Okay.
I will.
Great stuff. Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys.
There you go. James Henderson. Good stuff. I was looking through schedules. NC State has been, I think, to your point, on their coach and what he's done, really consistently good.
Very consistent.
8 or 9 wins basically every year. There's a lot of question marks to me in the ACC. Miami and Mario. Is this the year that they pop? Dabo won't take transfers. I think Florida State's going to regress a ton at quarterback.
Well, in general, they lost a lot of talent.
You're losing a lot of guys. Yeah. And so I look at the ACC kind of open, and James highlighted, like, that back half. So they play Tennessee in non-conference at home in week 2. That's a really fun game early on in the season.
That's tough.
September 7th, but that's a non-conference game. So we're looking at playoff pictures now. You just win the ACC, you're in. You don't have to win that game. You go to Clemson 2 weeks after that, but that's sandwiched between Louisiana Tech and Northern Illinois. And that last stretch, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Cal, Stanford, Duke, my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and North Carolina.
Well, also their quarterback, I think, kind of flew under the radar of transfer portal guys that guy was really good at Coastal Carolina. And now he's got a shot to show it on the bigger stage.
He's a Gabriel Nix guy. He's been in college for like 5 years. This is year 6 of college football for him.
Wasn't he the quarterback when they randomly played BYU during COVID?
When they scheduled a game in a week, that was Coastal Carolina BYU. He was their starter in 2020.
And so, I tend to lean a little Miami, but if you tell me NC State can get to the ACC title game, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. I don't trust Dabo and Clemson anymore. I'm sorry. You cannot be in this world without transfer portal guys at all. And I'm just not a big believer in DJ as the quarterback, and they lost a lot of talent on offense and defense. And, what happens if they don't trust DJ and they have to go to a different guy? Norvell's a good coach.
He is.
But NC State might be tapping into the right thing, and their coach really is. He's kind of almost like Whittingham East.
Yeah.
He's. I think Kyle's
without the conference
better.
titles.
Without
This
the
was what
conference
Whittingham
titles.
was before he finally broke through.
Well, but yeah, and you give Whittingham a lot more credit, but like to be able to be this consistent at NC State, you heard it there, 1979, like
been a long time.
That's a pretty good under the radar coach they've got.
So they're number 13. We just skipped over Florida State. They play this weekend, but all their beat writers are going to Dublin, and so we're not going to be able to get somebody from Florida State on. That's all right. Good preview there on NC State. Let's stick in college football. Do you have a starting quarterback or do you not? Who do you trust more? We'll get to that next on The Fan.
Who's
off in front of a gallery on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
That's right, Crunch Time, as always, brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online at crunch.com. I want to talk about quarterback situations in the NFL at the top of the hour because, boy, oh boy, two fan bases not feeling great today after their preseason weekend. So we'll dive into that a little bit. Coming up here in 10 minutes, whose sources do we trust more?
We got a source off.
We have a source off.
We got a source off
for your. Down there at Oregon State, they are trying to figure out who their starting quarterback's going to be. First game less than 2 weeks away. This started with Kerry Eggers tweeting out, sources tell me that at Ben Goldbranson.
I love that he tagged him.
He's
Like he's going to get the retweet
from
Ben.
That Ben Goldbranson is the likely starter for their home opener versus Idaho State on August 31st, but promising redshirt freshman Jabari Johnson should see some playing time too and could win the starting job at some point through the season. So it starts with he's a likely starter or is the starter, but then the other guy might be the starter. So it's a little bit of a convoluted thing. But saying that the likely starter, sources tell me, starter Ben Goldbranson.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple hours later, and we get a tweet from Nick Daschel. Covers the team for the Oregonian, saying there is a rumor on social media saying Ben Goldbranson is OSU's likely 2024 starter and Johnson may get time. A source close to the program told me that is 100% inaccurate.
Not so fast, my friend.
No decision has been made on the starting quarterback.
Oh, we got a source off.
Whose sources will be right now? It should be noted, Trent Bray, I think, has already admitted he's going to name a starter at some point. I think later in the week. He wants to talk to his team first.
Yeah.
You're going to hear something at some point this week.
Yeah.
But we have a source off. Who's right, Kerry or Daschel?
Should be a good poll question. Who's sourcing off? Are you trusting here, Eggers or Daschel? At Dirt and Spray, you can vote for that. I'll put up as a poll question. Look, I don't know if I pick a winner here because I think both can end up being right.
Yeah.
That Goldbranson maybe trots out first against Idaho State, but then we watch all three play in that game.
Your team famously once named a starter out of fall camp and benched him halfway through the first game of the season.
Sacramento State, I remember.
Yeah. Well, and when you were on the road at Purdue, you brought what's-his-nuts in from Colorado. He started. He won the job. And you were down at halftime of that game, and they turfed him.
Oh, what was his name? I'm blanking.
Why are we blanking on the name? He's a local kid, too.
He was, yeah. Is it Westview kid?
Yes, I'll go.
I want to say he was.
I'll go.
God, I'm blanking on his name.
Give me a second. I got to go back to that box
Anyways,
score.
the point is likely that this is going to be a quarterback carousel.
Yes.
Until one of them plays substantially better. Now, I listened to Bray's post-practice scrimmage scrum thing, and I'm reading tea leaves here because Bray's not saying really much of anything about anything. It seems like they're very non-committal of any one of these guys, that all three of these dudes are having some moments, but largely struggling.
Sam Neuer. Sam Neuer was benched at halftime, and Chance Nolan took over as the starter.
That's right.
That was the year they damn near got to. Remember, they had all those chances to get to a bowl game.
Yes.
But ended up going 5-7. They were close, but couldn't quite get over.
Should have beaten Hawaii.
Should have beaten Hawaii.
That was the
and
game.
Washington State.
And Washington State.
And there was a handful of those throughout
those
the year.
reminders.
Yes.
Yeah, that team was a little better than what they were.
Yeah.
But I was listening to a Machado Beaver Blitz space before I left for vacation, and Goldbranson sounds like he's throwing picks left and right. This Jabari Johnson kid seems like a good athlete, and that's kind of it. He's an athlete. He's just running around. He's just going to use his legs a lot, which that kind of gives me some Seth Collins vibes of can't throw the football. And then McCoy, he had some good stuff, I guess, against in Idaho, but there isn't a clear answer here, and that's ultimately what it is. Have a source off, claim to be right. I don't care. It's there's not a set quarterback for this program. That's a little concerning for me. Some people can say that's no big deal. I'm more in the rut row category because I don't know if any one of these guys will prove to hold on to the job throughout the season. And when your schedule's gotten relatively easier from a who you're playing standpoint, even with all the talent departure, I'm still in the rut row Shaggy. So I hope one of them does earn it and solidifies the spot, because playing quarterback, carousel games, just tends not to fare well for you.
If you want to see a healthy reaction to something, go ahead and read through the tweets of Kerry Yeager's tweet, or the responses, I should say, to the reaction of Ben Gulbranson being named the starting quarterback. Beaver fan did not handle that one very well. Now he is again he has not been named the starting quarterback yet. Might have been too soon, and we'll see what happens at the end of the week. That seems to be a pretty, I would say, what would you say the opinion in the OSU fan base? 80-20 anti-Gulbranson? Seems like there's a lot of pushback.
Ooh, I don't think it's 80-20.
You don't think is that too strong?
No. What about look, one guy is the freshman, right? He's the second-year freshman.
Jabari Johnson is the young kid he went to Missouri for a year, didn't play, and then transferred
You
out.
can certainly make an argument that, like, having the young guy with the system and growing it even through the lumps.
It's also an unknown. Like, I've seen Ben Gulbranson not be very good. I've never seen this other guy play. So there's like, I know what this is. I don't know. The idea of what it could be, I think, is more exciting.
But I've seen Gulbranson be serviceable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like every start he played, he was trash.
He was not terrible in every game.
And then McCoy is like such a wild card coming from Idaho that it's I don't know how to put it off. But
I just was reading like some of the. I hope that source is wrong. This team will be lucky to make a bowl game.
See, I don't think it's 70. You think it's 70-30?
I think there's a lot of animosity.
I think it's
towards
60-40. Why would there be animosity?
Animosity is not the right. Animosity towards the idea of him being the starting quarterback, not him personally.
He's not an electric athlete. The other two seem to be, especially Johnson.
Yes.
And so I think it's about, do you just DTR this thing the way Gundy did at UCLA? And
somebody said he won't make it through week 3 as a starter.
Who, Gulbranson?
Yeah, these are responses to Kerry's tweet. Somebody said no thanks.
Yeah, I don't know if any one of these guys is taking the job for longer than 4 weeks.
Probably not.
We're probably going to see Johnson be really bad. Here comes McCoy in relief. Like, Mike Parker is having to study all 3 of these guys because I think he's going to be calling their names a lot.
So where are you at on this one, Beaver fan? Are you with Sprague? Is this a rut row moment that we have a quarterback but don't have a quarterback, but just the idea that one has not been named yet? We will find out at some point this week, despite the source off, who will be the starting quarterback for Oregon State this year. We'll read a couple of your thoughts on the other side. I also want to get to bad quarterback play in the NFL because, boy, oh boy, was it on display this weekend in week 2 of the preseason. We got some other notes out of the college football world to get to. A ton. A loaded final hour as always, and it starts next on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, it's Sue.
I'm on YouTube as we are every single morning. Thanks for being with us. Hope your weekends
Bring gas.
were great. Hope your Mondays are off to a good start.
That just makes me long for the days when baby Kobe's out there getting us just as excited as Dame once did.
Let me ask this. Let's ask this fun question to start the final hour.
43 at a Canadian Pro-Am. Did you see those highlights?
No, I did not.
Shane's back.
How long until we get a Blazer highlight that is worthy of bumping that Blazer highlight from the Open?
Ooh, I mean, dude, I know that was.
That was.
Look, it's a first-round series, and we've had a lot more success than first-round wins. But
not in a long time. We have not. No, not in 30 years.
I think you could put it in the pantheon of any highlight call in organizational history.
Yes.
So you're asking me
how long until we get
that?
How long until that highlight is replaced?
But what if they
highlight?
sweep their way through a first-round series in 3 years? There's no highlight to play.
Well, if you hit a game-winning shot to sweep a team, maybe there is. That was a 5-game series when they won it.
That was a 6-game series going into Game 7.
Oh, I thought that's the OKC shot.
That's Tirico. That's the rocket shot.
Oh, okay. I thought
we should have lost that game.
Okay, I thought I had I had my Damian Lillard shots wrong because the OKC shot was a Game 5. That was a Game 5.
Yeah. The Tirico one was in 6, and
Game 6.
If he doesn't hit that, we go back to Houston for 7. Probably in trouble there, Bob.
I want to read a couple thoughts here. Beaver fans chiming in on their quarterback situation. A Steeler fan said, "Welcome to my world, Brandon." Signed, Steeler fan.
Fields, Wilson Fields.
We'll get to that in a moment. Sprague, does a quarterback carousel seemingly every offseason get to you mentally?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it feels like it's been going on for a while.
They've had some years where certainly they come into the season with hey, this is our set starter, and that's been nice. They have some good names that they've had throughout their history, but they've also played this game too many times in my life. And
it's been a lot of years.
And look, I think this is why it's a little different for me and why it's tough. None of the three. Gulbranson has the best resume of the three. McCoy has some experience at Idaho, but Johnson's the biggest wild card who might have the highest upside. And so it's I kind of understand why Bray and Gundy would do this. I'm just going to be I'm going to be stuck in hell if this is just going to be every 3 weeks. Hey, now it's this guy's turn.
Let's change this up.
Hey, now it's that guy's turn.
Yeah.
Eventually, if Gulbranson is the starter and Eggers is right, and by the way, the poll question's up. Who you got in the source up? Eggers or Daschle?
Sources do you trust more?
If Eggers is right and it's Gulbranson, and he plays himself out of it, no offense to him, we should not see him the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's a McCoy-Johnson only battle.
If you give him the run and he looks bad early,
yes,
I don't need to see any more.
We do not need to see any more. Now, another thing I was reassured of, and I've been saying this, but I haven't been at practice because, I work in the morning and it's hard.
Yeah.
Gundy's offense is not what people think it's going to be. All the reporting is that, we're thinking Chip Kelly early UCLA offense, and I just have never been sold that that's what his philosophies will be. I think it's going to be a lot of Hankerson Griffin. I think the left side of that line is a 6'10 guy, an NFL guy, and Josh Gray. We're running the football quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if Johnson's the best bet because he's also a dual threat guy who's more run than throw, I won't be shocked. But if Gulbranson plays himself off of the field early, we shouldn't see him the rest of the year.
No.
It just doesn't make sense. You need to move forward, even if your season isn't what you hope it is. And so, yes, a long-winded answer of saying, am I tired of it? Yeah, I absolutely am.
Thought from my Beaver fans, when's the last time a quarterback won you 9+ games at Oregon State? And when was the last time a great run game and defense did? I'm not worried about the quarterback situation as long as every other aspect of the team is solid. Eventually, the quarterback will be figured out.
I would argue Cody Vaz, the Beaver Juice season, and they unfortunately made a big mistake putting Mannion back in at the UW game.
Should have stuck with Cody Vaz.
And got upset when they were, I think, 6th in the country at that point.
Yes.
And I watched Husky fans storm the field because they beat Oregon State. That actually, there was a little pride in that. But
is that more prideful than stealing their best baseball player, too? Because that was kind of funny. That happened a few weeks ago.
I mean, that's to be expected in baseball. They don't care about baseball up north. In football, when you storm the field because you beat Oregon State, that tells me we're in a good spot. Yeah, certainly. This team is going to win primarily off of what their defense does and the run game success. But that doesn't take away the point of having quarterback. We talked about this with Ohio State earlier.
Yeah.
What if Will Howard struggles in their first early game? Like
first big game they got to play in, and he sucks and throws a couple of picks and loses you the game.
You can certainly win in college football more often without needing like a quote unquote franchise guy. But man, you're still going in week to week. Like, damn it! I hope this dude doesn't throw the game away.
Yeah, I know I'm not in the bubble, but if I was, I'd be calling for one of the young guys to start. But that's just my 2 cents. We'll see. They're going to name a starter at some point this week. It sounds like Trent Bray towards the back end of the week will name a starter, so we should know at least a week before the first game.
I'm asking,
and then you get an absolute cupcake to say, "Hey, go work out the kinks here. You got Idaho State in town."
I ask very quickly as a non-beat writer journalist.
Yeah,
I had that job for a year. It's not easy and it sucks, and I was very unqualified for it. So I'm asking now as a radio host, if Dashiell's wrong here and Eggers is right, does Dashiell get rid of that source?
I would hope so.
Like, do you still? No.
Like, if you have somebody inside the program that's telling you that's 100%, he said it's 100% inaccurate. Like, just crapped all over it.
Well, then you just play the whole game of, at the time it was 100% accent, or it was 100%
that's what
wrong.
he'll do publicly, but I think this is about private. Like, I'm not ever going to that source again.
It depends on that source. Because, like, if the source is someone, like, a key person inside, like, the athletic department, you need to hold on to him because you might use him for something else. You might say, hey, you owe me.
Well, no, I highly
doubt it's
somebody.
Correct news this time.
I highly doubt it's somebody in the athletic department. These are football-specific sources. What would be funny is if it was the same source for both, and the guy was just playing both.
Just muddying up the waters.
Muddying the waters. Yeah, Carrie, it's Ben. Definitely. No way, Nick. There's not a chance in hell. If you had to pick your fighter in this specific one, who would you pick?
Which sources do I trust more?
Just on this specific thing.
I go Dashiell.
Okay.
I think he's there day in and day out.
He is there day in day out, but I
don't know how often Carrie is there. And also the Carrie tweet is a little it's for breaking news. It's incredibly vague. It says he is likely to be named, not he will be named. He's likely to be named the starter.
Yeah.
But then the other guy's also going to play.
Yeah.
And might be the starter at some point.
Right.
It's not saying that.
It's a little open-ended.
Gulbranson has been named the starter. He will be the starter for Idaho State. He's likely, and then the other guy's going to play. So you're kind of open. You're leaving it very vague.
But of the two, Eggers probably has more or better relationships with the people that are involved with the football program right now because he covered a lot of them when they played.
He did.
And he knows the tie-ins with the history.
Yes.
Like, he knew Bray's dad.
Mike Riley's
he grew
still
up
there.
Covering Bray.
Nice guy.
He covered Gundy when he was a backup quarterback for Oregon State, right? Like, I'm not saying Dashiell doesn't have sources. I'm just saying, like, I'm going to be interested to see where this goes.
We're voting on different answers to that poll question. We got a source off right now. I watched a lot of preseason football again this weekend. I have an issue.
What is wrong with you?
I got problems, dude. I got problems. I got issues.
I
How
did it
could
for
you
the
turn
first
away?
weekend.
How could you turn away?
Drake May against the Eagles?
I mean, he looked not bad.
I mean, we're going to do it to Bo Nix. We need to do it to Drake May.
Not bad. He looked not bad, right?
What are they doing? Brissett? Why?
I know. I ranted about that on Friday because that game was on Thursday night. Who should be feeling worse this morning? And maybe this is an easy answer. If you're a New York Giant fan or a Steeler fan about your quarterback situation.
Oh, I think this is an easy one, Bob.
Easy
it's
one?
the Steelers.
Worse than Did you see what Daniel Jones did this weekend? And they also elected to not take Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and J.J. McCarthy in the NFL draft.
Well, they tried to trade up to
They
draft
did. They wanted Drake May.
And
then all the other three were on the board when they
Yes.
drafted, and Giants fans claimed, why didn't we take a quarterback?
Yes.
But they love Malik Neighbors, and then Daniel Jones threw a pick from his end zone falling down this weekend, and another one down the sideline, and it looked just exactly like we thought Daniel Jones would look.
Yeah, no, look, but like you and I, we both know Daniel Jones sucks.
He's
It's Daniel
terrible.
Jones, not Daniel Jones.
He's not good.
I'd also say this. When you
I actually did talk to Daniel Jones.
When you go to worst, like best odds to have worst record in NFL.
Giants number one near the top of the list.
They're not number one. The Patriots are. They're 3-1. The Giants are in the top 4. So I'm asking sincerely, what person with an actual functional brain, not pom-pom waving, thinks the Giants are going to be anything?
Nobody.
They have
Nobody.
We've got Kayvon and Burns.
Yep.
Okay, great. Will they win games for you? Because I think they're good edge rushers.
I mean, that's heading for a full that
It's
GM's
a
going to get
full-
fired, head coach is going to get
Yeah.
fired, Daniel Jones, like that is what
Mara-
is in your future.
Yeah, the Barkley Mara stuff on the Hard Knocks, it didn't make their GM look particularly good. When he's asking what's going on with Barkley, and then I heard Barkley this, and the GM's like, oh, and he reaches for his phone, and like I thought that was a really bad look for him. Like, oh, I didn't hear that. Like, you're the general manager, you should hear all of it.
Right.
The Steelers go in every year thinking they should be a contender in the AFC.
They were a playoff team last year.
And they've put themselves in quarterback hell.
They have.
Like, Tomlin's already tired of this, and they're not even to the regular season yet. And by the way, both players suck.
Justin Fields was not great either. He at least had one highlight scramble, throw down the sideline. Russell Wilson in a preseason game.
He's terrible.
He couldn't get rid of the football. He averaged like 2 yards an attempt.
I think it was 4.7, but yeah, you're not very far off.
He had 8 completions for 40 yards. He was. I had this entire game on basically because it was right. I had nothing going on. I was just sitting around. I was laughing at how bad he was. Of like, for anybody out there that thought maybe Sean Payton was the problem and Arthur Smith is going to fix this.
Well, it wasn't like Payton was a solution.
Dude, they gave this guy $80 million to go away. They're eating $80 million to say, please, for the love of God, go play anywhere else. You can have him. Who thought that this would look any different?
Well, I'm kind of curious. I would wonder, too, because did Tomlin get the extension? Let me look that up. But
yeah, I'm not sure.
I know Tomlin was going into the last year of his deal. And Tomlin's a weird case study of what show? I think it was the ESPN show before us. Basically, like, is Mike Tomlin a Hall of Famer?
Mm-hmm.
And instantly, Canty's like, yeah. And then started getting mad. And the producer's like, but if you look at the resume the last, 10 years.
He's won every year.
I think he has one playoff win in 10 years.
Not
I don't
a lot
think
of
he's
playoff
won,
success.
He hasn't won a game in the playoffs since 2016.
Long time.
And, I think Tomlin's a good coach. I zigger-zagged with you about, is he a top 8 coach? And I think everybody instinctually says yes, but why as an organization would you put yourself here where you're like Justin Fields, guy who some of Chicago thought they should trade the number 1 pick to help get more talent around because, he played okay the last 5 weeks.
You're damn right he did.
Or Russell Wilson, who got cast aside by Seattle and then cast aside for a ton of cap space by Denver. Yeah. Why would you do that to yourselves?
They'd rather eat the money and draft Bo Nix than play him again. That's how bad he was in Denver last year.
I just didn't get that decision. Just suck. Take a year and say, we're Pittsburgh. We don't do this a lot. We're going to suck.
They can't do that there. It's one of those integrity things in that market.
Like,
you can never get away with tanking for a quarterback. So they're in this weird
isn't
limbo.
This the one year the fan base might go, we get it. We got Kenny Two Gloves didn't work. And
he looked terrible too.
Well, I saw a funny tweet. Was like, whoever evaluated this guy and said this is a first-round quarterback? So I get it. Kenny Pickett didn't work. Who was it before him? Like post-Ben, and even the last couple of years of Ben weren't great.
No.
Like, you don't have a guy. And what do we know about that league? You need a guy. And they don't have one. Why not?
I know.
One year, I think that city would understand it. This year, they're going to be booing Russ.
Yeah.
He's going to be subbed out in week 2.
He better, if starting him is inexcusable.
Well, Tomlin is sticking to it. It's like, that's our guy. That's our starter. And it's like, why? What has he done in 4 years to
nothing, man?
Show that he should be a solid starter? Like, at least Fields might have an exciting play or two.
Yeah. To your point about Nick, you brought this up earlier with Bo Nix of, he went from nothing to something from Auburn to Oregon. I'd love to do a case study. Like what happened? What
I would
clicked?
do an OPB podcast on that.
In depth, deep dive.
Yeah, the fluff CBS thing's going to give me nothing.
And I want the opposite of that. Now, Deshaun Watson makes a little more sense because, the guy's a criminal and had to sit out for a year. Like that one, at least you can draw a line of this happened and then his career went downhill.
Turns out being out in the NFL for 2 seasons is not good for your career.
Also going through legal battles and being a criminal and
now looked
not
at
ideal.
As a pariah.
Right?
Yeah.
Russell Wilson didn't have that. What the hell happened?
He threw that pick in that wild card game with the Rams, and that was it, man. It just kind of broke him.
He was we can debate
he had a good year that year. I think they had 40 touchdowns and 11 picks.
Towards the end of the Seattle run, he wasn't terrible. I don't understand.
Was it Hackett? So in 2020,
was it Sierra? Somebody mentioned earlier it was Sierra. They went
he
with
broke his finger.
Oh, that's
and
right.
then Gino came in.
Right.
He broke the tendon
run.
in his finger, and they had to replace it. And ever since then,
you're right.
He has not had the deep ball. He also lost a little bit of his
mobility.
speed,
Yeah.
So he's not getting out of the pocket and being able to see. So when you're short, you lose a little bit of your throw power. You can't throw that deep ball. Can't move around anymore. career's kind of gone.
He had a couple moonball moments last year when Denver just, I thought, clearly was not good. And we were talking about it on the show in real time, and Bronco fan was upset. Oh, they're going to turn around. They're great. The Broncos are great. He had like a few moonball moments, and I was like, I'm not buying this. And then it got worse, and he got screamed at like a child by Sean Payton.
He was a guy who was an absolute protector of stats last year, holding onto the ball to not throw picks, because his numbers, when you look at him on the surface, were not like atrocious, but he didn't throw for many yards.
I got upset by that,
because he was just taking sacks to not turn the football over.
And look, I think Mina Kimes is like one of the best. This is like where I would call somebody like her out a little bit of, she watches tape, she breaks it down, and she does a good job. Like, I heard her on he's actually not been that bad. I'm like, he's averaging 6 points in a half.
He's just throwing swing routes and you're punting. Like, what is not?
Yeah, he's doing check down throws here. Like, we got to stop this whole protect Russell Wilson thing. It's probably, honestly, of all the things, it's definitely Cam Newton's shoulder finger thing. It has to be, because
he still goes Sierra.
In 2020, he threw 40 tutties for 13 picks, a 105 rating, and 4,200 yards.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be the finger thing. And remember, it wasn't just that he injured his finger, right? And remember, he was forcing himself back early. Geno came in, and Geno instantly looked better.
Fans were chanting his name, I think.
Because he was hitting the intermediate parts of the field, and Russ was, at that point, like moonball or dump route.
Yeah.
He wasn't hitting the middle parts of the field. And I remember talking about it. We laughed about it. I think it broke him. I think watching Geno go in there and get chance.
That was it. That was what did it.
Look, he's a different cat.
Mr. Unlimited.
He doesn't know who he is.
No.
He's had identity issues for years.
That Subway commercial went viral the other day because their business has not been doing great lately. And that some people were trying to draw conclusions of this is the start of the downfall.
Spicy.
It's spicy. What, have you ever done anything spicy or no? Have you ever done anything dangerous? Ooh, that's dangerous.
And it's just awkwardly quiet with nobody in it but him. Like, how weird did the cameraman feel shooting those commercials?
In his kitchen.
We debated this, actually. It's funny you bring them up. We debated this camping, my family and I. Because Subway is in like dire straits reportedly.
Not going good.
They're not selling
Them
a
and
lot.
Starbucks are going through a rough patch right now.
Yeah, Starbucks would be okay because their coffee, like eventually everybody would just come back in waves with that stuff. What do you think did it for Subway? And we debated this. Was it the pedo guy? Or was it the fact that you did a $5 footlong campaign and now you're $13 subs?
Yeah, I think that's the bigger issue. I think we've gotten over Jared. Jared was a while ago. Like, I think they've rode through the Jared drama.
Yeah, but Jared was
like, when was Jared locked up?
I don't know.
I want to say that was like 10 years ago at least, right? Yeah.
We also looked it up. He's only got sentenced for 15 years.
Jared's getting out?
And he's served a lot of time already, yeah.
When were you say? Yeah.
Because we had to tell my cousin's kids now are all in like their teens and their early 20s. None of them knew who he was. And that brought us into like
2015. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
Dude, it's going to be
He's
2025
getting out in 6 years.
Yeah. Well, good luck living in society as you, but
well, good luck. Yeah, I'm surprised he's still alive.
So we kind of debated: was it like you went in on the $5 footlong thing,
$5,
and now you're like inflation, double the price, almost triple the price at this point.
It's just, I mean, watching Russ this weekend, man. I watch a lot of that game. Fields didn't look great either. I'm a Fields guy. I'm rooting for him, but I understand where he's at. The Russell Wilson thing of like, what did you expect to happen? I don't get it. I don't think the guy has it anymore.
Change of scenery, I think.
And boy, oh boy, Daniel Jones. Boy, oh boy.
Who do you think it is?
Boy, oh boy.
You asked me that question.
I think the Steelers should feel worse because they at least have expectations, but I also chuckle at the fact, like, the Steelers are going to be 9-8 this year and go to the play. Like,
not a chance.
They did it last year. Look at their quarterbacks last year, and they
do a beer
made
bet.
the playoffs.
Let's do a beer bet.
Are they above 500
this
this year?
This is the first year that Tomlin goes below 500.
I'll take that bet. I'll take that bet.
How are they going to do in that division?
I don't care.
Russell Wilson against the Ravens?
Russell Wilson will not start.
He is starting.
He will not. Justin Fields will start the majority of the year for them. Who was their starter last year? Kenny Pickett. Here are their guys. There are 3 quarterbacks that played last year. 4 quarterbacks.
We're doing too much.
Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitchell Trubisky. You know what their combined quarterback numbers were last year for the 3 starters? 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and they were above 500 and made the playoffs.
Dirt, they're going to Atlanta in week 1.
That's a tough one because I'm high on my Falcons.
That's where the players play.
It's a tough one.
I'm doing Francesa. Loss. Week 2, Broncos in Denver. Is that a Russ revenge game?
Yeah.
Loss. Chargers at Pittsburgh.
Spicy.
Are you serious?
All right, let's go to starting quarterbacks in college. And what happened to one 5-star recruit because he didn't win a job at a place that is going to play both of our colleges this year? We'll get to that coming up next on The Fan. Helping us out with stuff.
Joey, you got any takes on the Steelers quarterback situation?
Yeah, who should it be? Russell Wilson or Justin Fields?
Okay, all right.
No,
We'll
he's
see you
got
later,
nothing.
buddy.
Okay, all right. We love you, Joey.
Big gulps.
Big gulps, huh? Speaking of quarterback situations, this is a unique one, and it pertains to both of our college football programs. We both play Boise State this year.
Eskimo Bros.
The Broncos are on our schedule.
You're darn right.
My team has never beaten them.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see that guy made another video for week 2? I thought about pulling it, but it was
retweeted it.
It was
I
the
sent
same.
it to my brother-in-law because he heard us play the original.
Yeah.
And so I saw the Cardinal one, and the fact that he's not sticking with the nay.
Yeah, he didn't give us a nay at the end.
He just said, go Colts.
Yeah, come on.
And
the nay's the bit.
my brother-in-law went like, I don't know how I feel about this guy anymore.
I'm out. You're not going to nay, I'm out.
You got a nay.
I want a nay.
Yeah, we have to go to Boise in
You do.
late November.
It's a fun one.
That'll be fun.
Go on the road, cold weather.
Because that's an easy place to play when it's not snowing or freezing cold.
They named their starting quarterback yesterday, and they have announced that sophomore Maddox Madsen, which just phenomenal name.
You like Maddox as a first name?
Madsen. That's a mouthful. He has been named the starting quarterback for their opener against Georgia Southern, and he beat out, I think some people probably forgot this, they got a transfer in the offseason. That was one of the most highly touted quarterbacks in the country, Malachi Nelson, who was the number one recruit overall in the 2023 cycle, or at least number one quarterback, according to a lot of different metrics. He originally committed to Oklahoma with Riley, followed him with his commitment to USC. He was at USC last year. He was third string, obviously, behind Caleb and Miller Moss, realized that Miller Moss was going to win the job and was the front runner, said, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going to go somewhere where I can play. Transferred to Boise State, which was a big like, whoa, that dude's going to Boise. After 1 year, he's going to Boise State. And then was named not the starter. This kid's a redshirt sophomore. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think people have already looked at his social media. Malachi Nelson is scrubbing Boise State stuff from his social media. So things are going well.
Good luck to him.
And Maddox Madsen been named the starter, not Malachi Nelson. I was pretty surprised by that. Not that I followed their camp, but just that name seemed like a big deal, and I expected him to win the job.
Well, what's funny is I had forgotten that he had transferred to Boise State until yesterday when I saw they announced who their starting quarterback was. There's something going on with that kid.
Something up there.
You're not a 5-star,
Something up there.
top-of-the-line recruit, and Lincoln Riley says, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. And then Boise State says, yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. Is he going to if he transfers again, he's got to sit out. He doesn't have another freebie.
Wait, I mean,
where are you going to go at this point?
Yeah, like you went to Boise State. If you couldn't win the job at Boise State.
Yeah, that's.
By the way, the fighting Clay Helton's Georgia Southern, right?
Georgia Southern. They famously got Scott Frost fired. That Clay Helton when they beat Nebraska in Nebraska.
I feel like Clay Helton's had a nice little run at Georgia Southern for 2 years.
I'll pull it up.
Could be wrong on that one, but I feel like I thought Georgia Southern was like an 8-4 team a couple years ago.
I got to admit, a guy that I'm kind of rooting for. I liked Clay Helton.
Clay Helton was a really nice guy. We got to talk to him at Pac-12
nice
Media Day.
Those are tough. I mean, you go to USC, you're like, hey, go be Pete Carroll. That's not an easy thing to do. 2 years at Georgia Southern, he's 6-7, 6-7. So
I was way wrong.
But does Georgia Southern have expectations?
I think better than 6-6.
They went to two bowl games each year, lost their bowl games, so 500 seasons back-to-back years.
That's one of those. I wonder if the scout and rank people. Like, do they take Malachi Nelson resume and tweak 5-star process?
Right.
Like when you tell me he's a 5-star guy, minimum he's getting like 2 years of starting to me.
Right.
So like when he doesn't start at all and he's bypassed, he's third string, and then he's back up at a Mountain West school. I think we need to reevaluate. Like, what division was he in?
Yeah.
What teams was he playing?
He was a big-time California kid, if I'm not mistaken.
I remember when they got
Mater
him.
Day.
Matter Day, yeah, like a big-time program.
That's
high level.
It was a massive get when they announced that he was following Lincoln over to USC. It was
This isn't some 2-star kid from
Yeah.
Wyoming who's playing 9-man football.
Right.
Like, this is a big-time California high school football.
And now he's been outplayed by Maddox Madsen.
So when he transferred there, I remember thinking, hey, that's interesting. I know Oregon plays them next year. Oregon State, the schedule wasn't out yet, but I assumed that they were going to play Boise State. And so I thought, hey, Malachi Nelson might play the Ducks and the Beavers next year. Not the case. So
Is he really scrubbing everything Boise State on his profiles?
I saw a tweet with that in that regard from a Boise guy who said he went on I think it was on his Instagram, and he just scrubbed all of his stuff. And
I mean, his background picture is him with a Boise helmet.
So that's still up there?
His pinned tweet is still Boise. This is it. Committed. Bleed blue.
Okay. I think it was Instagram that he scrubbed, not Twitter. He was scrubbing the gram.
I mean, there's also a situation like, sure, Maddox Madsen's going to hold on to the reins of that thing.
Yeah, we'll see. The people have said he's a baller. He had a good camp, and he beat the kid out. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. And Yogi actually had some thoughts on this, Yogi Roth, because he wrote a book about 5-star quarterbacks and why some of them pan out, why some of them don't. And it just kind of gets to what we're talking about with Russell Wilson of, like, how you could be so wrong in the evaluation process. And was it something in college that his head got too big? He doesn't have a good work ethic? Is it he's just not – the reads were too easy in high school and he can't quite comprehend them?
Sure.
There could be a million different things of how you go from analyzing a kid in high school who was clearly one of the best players in the country. Like, you don't just randomly get ranked the number one quarterback in high school because you threw 12 touchdowns.
You play for Mater Day.
The kid was dominant. He was a great high school quarterback, and the reports out of L.A. last year were that he wasn't great in camp, and that's why Miller Moss ran away with it this year. And so he hits the portal instead of sticking behind Moss and with Lincoln Riley for a couple of years. And it's just a good reminder that even if you go in the portal, there's not always an option for you on the other side. He went down from the Big Ten to the Mountain West Conference and still couldn't find a starting quarterback job. And Ty Thompson's the same way, dude. Ty Thompson was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Sometimes these kids just don't pan out for whatever reason. It doesn't work out for them.
I think, too, it's like the mental side of sports where it's hard to compute what you were, who you are, and then it's like, well, you're not that.
Yes.
And then it's like, can you transform yourself to get past not being that anymore?
Right.
And I think some players that's the tough part of sports, especially that position. It's just such a demand, so much information, so much intel. Hey, you got to tweak this. Hey, you're not doing that right. Before you know, you look up a depth chart, you're third, and you're like, wait, well, I was the best guy.
Yeah,
here.
what the hell happened here? I got a fun trivia question for you. I want to stick in college football next. How many active head coaches have a winning record against top 10 teams in the country? A winning record against top 10 teams in the country. I'll let you know who they are. I saw this tweet, some of the metrics behind it. Kind of interesting. We'll get to that next. First, here's Will with SportsCenter. coaches in college football, and next to their name is their record against top 10 teams in their coaching career.
Okay.
Record against top 10 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to guess the number of head coaches in the country who have a winning record in their career against top 10 opponents? Could be 1 year, could be 2 years, could be 20 years. A winning record against top 10 teams.
So I think Kirby does.
Kirby is 21-8. He does.
Kalen is.
Kalen DeBoer is 4-1. That is 2.
I'm going to say Mac Brown is sneaky on this list.
Mac Brown was not even on the list, to be honest
okay,
with
all
you.
right.
He wasn't even listed in this tweet.
Dabo?
Dabo is 18-13. There is one other coach who has a winning record against top 10 teams in his career.
It's not Mario.
It is Mario is 4-7 against top 10 teams.
Oh, he's 4-7.
4-7. I got a handful of guys. I'll give you their records.
Brian Kelly?
Brian Kelly is 6-20 in his career against top 10 teams.
Notre Dame, bunch of frauds.
Notre Dame lost a lot of those big games.
Man.
And he's lost a few of them at LSU as well.
Is it Lincoln?
Lincoln Riley is just below 500 at 5-6. One game below 500.
Is it one that like it's a pretty well known, or
Yes.
is it okay?
Yes. It's one that you're like, oh, that's kind of funny.
Lane Kiffin.
No, Lane Kiffin is 3-15 against top 10 teams. It is Ryan Day at Ohio State.
Okay, my next guess would have been Ryan Day.
8-7. He's the only other guy
But the
above
Big
500.
Ten usually sucks. So I'm like, how many top 10 teams is he playing?
Right. I mean, those are largely, early
Non-conference
Michigan
or bowl
wins and
games.
Penn State wins and like Notre Dame game last year.
Right.
Some of the other records you mentioned, Mario, he's 4-7. Dan Lanning 2-3 at this point in his career. Lincoln Riley 5-6. Steve Sarkisian 4-14.
Well, Washington
Was it
years
Washington?
don't help, but also USC didn't go
USC
well.
did not go well. Mike Norvell 2-7. The one that stood out the most was the guy who we talk about every year in this category, and it was James Franklin. Do you care to guess James Franklin's
His is bad.
record against top 10 teams?
4-25.
You were damn close. 3-22.
Yeah, I remember hearing Pate talk about this and defending him, and I'm like, oh, dude, that record, it's hard to defend that.
It is funny though when you put this into context of the conversation. We did this with Ohio State earlier, and I don't agree with the sentiment necessarily around him and the expectation and the pressure and all that. But I understand, I guess, to a certain extent where the fan base is coming from. It is funny to say that he's above 500 in his career against top 10 teams. Ryan Day is.
Yeah.
There's only 4 coaches who are active above 500 against top 10 teams. Yet he is treated like he is a horrible coach.
The overall record is insanely stupid, and the fact that
he's never lost a Big Ten game to a team not named Michigan.
Yeah.
In like 6 years as a head coach. The only Big Ten team he's lost to is Michigan.
Well, then maybe he's David Shaw to them, and it's like, oh, it's the urban rollover effect. Now we know who you are.
6-20, Brian Kelly. Oof, duh, man. It is a lot of these guys have big expectations this year, Mario included. I saw our buddy Josh Pate, who, by the way, we were going to kick off our weekly segment with him on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Very excited about that.
Very
he announced his tour this year. The first place he is going is Gainesville, Florida.
Miami at Florida is incredibly sneaky. In fact, what time? I think that game kicks off at 4:30 our time, if I'm remembering that correct, because I know Georgia Clemson starts things off.
Georgia Clemson is 9 a.m. on ABC.
And I will be at a Seattle-Tacoma base.
12:30 ABC.
Yeah, so
Miami at Florida. Miami is a 2.5-point favorite.
This one's tough. I might have to have the wife drive home from Seattle because we're going to a Storm game that Friday. But my also other thought is that Georgia will be bludgeoning Clemson, and so I might be able to lead by like third quarter.
Yeah.
That gives me just maybe a window where I watch a little bit of that Miami-Florida start on my phone. But like I'm super jacked because our local schools aren't playing anybody. They're playing Idaho and Idaho State.
Come on, man. You're not excited for the Vandals?
The Bengals?
The Bengals
My
and the Vandals?
Idaho State Bengals?
We should not be coming in on Tuesday with much of any takeaway.
I got
other than
3
like
hours of coverage for you, buddy.
Oregon State quarterback stuff. And, hey, Oregon could have won that game by 150 if they wanted to, right?
It's so dumb that these games even exist.
Yeah, these should be
I
exhibitions.
hate them.
Yeah,
it is
I do
so
too.
stupid.
It's a waste of our time,
Yes,
a
it
waste of
is.
our week.
Yes, it is. Play a preseason game, have it don't count, and then play real football.
But, I'll also say this. I do kind of like when those weeks happen when both schools play absolute patsies.
Kind of gives you a week off as a fan a little bit.
Yeah, I can like really zone in on like Miami, Florida's massive because, and I know this is going to sound crazy, Graham Mertz is the leading completion percentage quarterback in the SEC.
Is he really?
And like their schedule's not easy, and all of the expectations, we all are saying the same thing about Billy Napier, but everybody's saying, Mario, You got guys.
This is the year.
This is the year to pop. Your
have to do
conference
it.
sucks.
Yeah.
You're going to Gainesville.
You can't lose that game.
If they lose that game, turn that thermostat up. The humidity is going to be through the roof in Coral Gables. And so I'm probably the most excited for that game.
I am too. That's an
Other
awesome
than
one.
LSU USC on the Sunday.
Sunday night, you get that one on a Sunday night. Talk about expectations too. By the way, on Miami, John Ruiz, the
Life Wallet,
the Life Wallet bro, who was funding all of their athletics. His insurance company is claiming that there is substantial doubt about his ability to operate going forward.
Well,
they're not going great.
You know, I said this ridiculous take like a year or so ago. I think in some ways it's harder to be a Yankee fan than a Mariner fan, and you can laugh at that. Like, are you kidding me? But when you start winning and you win and you win, you win. Like every year you don't win, you're driven insane, and you're irrational. Mariner fan is like in a different hell where it's like, we know we suck. We'll expect to suck.
Right.
We don't have those expectations. I wonder if it's like, it's gotta be a different kind of experience to be the quote unquote billionaire to you're broke. Because all intel is that like that guy actually doesn't have money.
No, he's like legitimately
just equity and what company valuation was, and
it's not going great for him right now, Bob.
Well, and Miami has not been counting on his booster money for over a year now. They've seen this coming a mile away, and so it's like, okay, you don't have that guy.
Somebody asking. So I mentioned Lanning's record against top 10 teams.
2-3, right?
2-3 in his career.
Two of those would be last year.
Let me see.
Who would?
Yeah,
Oh,
2-3.
Georgia.
He lost to Georgia. He lost to UW twice. Somebody's asking, other than UCLA, who was the other top 10 team that Lanning beat?
Is it BYU?
BYU wasn't ranked.
No.
Utah, one of the last 2 years, has a decent. I don't know if Utah this year, but the year before when they beat him at the end of the year, I think Utah was.
How high up was Colorado?
Oh, Utah might have been the top 10.
Colorado was ranked, but I don't think they were top 10 when they killed
teens.
them. They were teens. I want to say it was Utah 2 years ago in that bowl game, and
But
they
that's
won.
one win.
Sure, I think the other one was UCLA. His first year, they beat Chip, came in undefeated. Remember,
and he did the
Pate
fake,
was at that game, the
that's
fake
right.
field goal, and they won that game going away. So I think those are his 2 top 10 wins in his career. But I don't quote me on that. But my money would be on Utah in year 1. Let's close it up. Send you on your way on a Monday next on the Fam.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
A somber note for me, and it was a tough weekend for me and my family, and it probably doesn't mean a lot to you guys, but I think we can all relate to stories like this.
Yeah, this one, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but it does. It matters. I had met him just a couple times, but you told me this. I was really bummed by it, man.
It was tough, man. My uncle Mark in Nebraska passed away this weekend, and he was one of those guys that when I was growing up, I remember thinking to myself, if my brother ever has kids, that's the kind of uncle that I want to be. Somebody who's fun, who's a little inappropriate, always makes you laugh, talks nonstop sports. And I remember when he lived in Phoenix for a couple of years. And I went to visit him, my family and I did, and he had NCAA football as a video game. I remember thinking, like, this is so cool, dude. My uncle was playing.
The greatest adult of all time.
Like, he's playing a video game with me. This is awesome. And I had a close friend of mine pass away many years ago, and it's something that I have always regretted, that he called me a couple of days before he passed away, and I was doing Lord knows what. I forgot to call him back, and he died a couple of days later. He was in the Coast Guard and died in a training accident, and I have never forgiven myself for that, which is dumb, but it's something that we stick with and live with. I just had this with my uncle a couple of weeks ago. We were playing phone tag because football season is here. And he wanted to call and just rant and rave about Big Ten football.
And he listens to the show.
Yeah. Husker football, for those who have never been in Nebraska, it is a religion like you would never imagine. And the only silver lining in it was that we had played phone tag, and it's hard when I'm watching the kid. I don't have all this time on my hands to talk. We finally connected, and we talked on the phone for about 30 minutes, and he was raving about Dylan Raiola being the next Patrick Mahomes. And we were just laughing and how excited he was for Oregon to be in the Big Ten and how they're going to make a trip out with the first time Nebraska comes to Autzen Stadium as a Big Ten opponent. And it just that whenever you have one of those figures in your life and somebody who is a great inspiration for you. It was a really tough weekend.
Yeah, man, I was really bummed when you shared that. I was surprised you came in because he not only just loved Nebraska football and listens to everything religiously in Omaha, but followed the show.
Yeah. His wife famously chased you with a baseball bat when we were in Lincoln.
She did. She really wanted me to drink Fireball, and it was a whole thing. It was really funny. But visited our studios, like 4
Yeah,
5
every
years
time
ago?
he was in town, you'd always want to pop in.
And had come through, and so it was really nice. He was a really nice guy to me, and I had only met him a couple times. And so I'm feeling for you and your family, and I'm glad you came in.
Yeah.
Got to say some nice words about him. And I think what's important is when we have people in our lives that we do cherish or care about or that have good impacts is we just keep their legacy going by sharing the kind of person that they were in our own lives. And so RIP Uncle Mark, and I feel really bad for your family right now. It's probably not easy for all of them over there or all your family up here having to lose somebody like that.
Well, thanks to everybody out there today, because this show, I always hope that this show can be a distraction